Town of Southampton Board of Selectmen's meeting for November 28th, 6 p.m. Welcome, everybody. We're going to start our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want everyone to understand that this meeting is recorded and televised. The first order of business is going to basically do a little housekeeping. We had some letters that came in from applicants for the town administrator's position. But before we even get into that, I'd like to see if the board would entertain a motion to send a letter to our screening committee thanking them for the amount of time and effort they put in working on that program.
Yep, I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now with that, Rainey?
I just want to read a letter then from one of the applicants, MJ Adams. Dear Renee, Jim, Charlie, and John, thank you for the opportunity to be considered for the town administrator position. Your process was thoughtful and thorough, and you achieved a great outcome. Congrats to you and the citizens of Southampton. Warmest regards, MJ Adams.
Very nice.
And then we received one from Robert Parent. And it's a little on the small side. Try to do this like it's bigger. It says, Dear board members, in the few days that have passed since the board's selection of Ed Gibson as the Southampton's next town administrator, I have had a chance to reflect on the process that the board followed to arrive at its decision. I would like to commend you for conducting a very fair and open selection process. Steps such as hiring the Collins Center to help define the town's goals and objectives, and to facilitate the search process, appointment of an independent screening committee that included a combination of department heads, concerned residents, and the very public presentation and evaluation of shortlisted candidates helped to ensure that the board was able to identify a well-qualified candidate that is right for the town. I worked with Ed Gibson as a client for many years when he was mayor of West Springfield and can attest to his extensive skills and capabilities as well as his high degree of professionalism. I expect that the town will be very well served by the board's choice and wish both you and Ed much success in the coming years. I'd like to thank the board for giving me an opportunity to advance to the final shortlist and be a serious contender for the town administrator's position. This is the first time in my career that I have applied for a position like this, and I expect that this experience will help me pursue future opportunities. Lastly, although I am not a resident of Southampton, I live only 4 miles from the town hall, and I am very willing to assist the town and its staff on a volunteer basis in any way that I can. Please feel free to reach out to me for any assistance for the town in the future. Sincerely, Bob Parent.
That's nice.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Would the board entertain a motion to take and send in both letters thanking them for applying?
Yep, so moved.
No, I'll second that.
Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Well, I think that takes care of housekeeping. Now let's move into the agenda. Appointments. We have a Joy Rizzo for Conservation Commission. Come on down.
Hello.
Well, I certainly heard from your father.
Should I leave now? Good, I'm glad. I also brought resumes. Would you guys like to
Just
entertain
for everyone, just say your name
Oh,
and
my name is
where
Joy
you
Rizzo.
live.
And I live, my exact address,
Yes.
12 Garrett Court, Southampton, Mass.
Thanks.
Let's my understanding Conservation has reviewed this and is recommending you.
Yes.
That's true, they voted at the last meeting.
Then I don't see a reason to review this any further.
Did you want to say anything, though, in terms of your interest, or?
Just that I'm very excited to get involved with the town finally. It's been a long time coming, and I can't wait to start.
Great.
Do you have a copy of your resume? I'd like
Yeah, sure. I have copies for everyone.
She brought
Yeah,
it.
thank
Why
you.
not?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As you will see, I have some commercial real estate experience. I will be new to the environmental part, but I have extensive legal research and work that I've been in. Obviously, I'm an attorney, so I look forward to diving into that. Any other questions?
No, I'm delighted that you're applying for this position based on your resume and background.
Thank you.
I think this is going to be a nice fit.
Thank you.
Thank you, welcome.
Do
Okay.
I hear a motion to appoint her?
Yep, I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Have a good night. Thank you.
We now have
So,
a,
excuse me one second, can you also go ahead and into the town clerk's office? And
Yes,
I
I'll
think
go right
that
in there.
to be sworn in. I
Yeah,
think
Perfect.
she had hoped that you would do that tonight.
Yep, I can do
Thanks.
that, of course.
the second appointment just came in this afternoon. It's for the Cultural Council. It's a Jason Johnson. Is Jason here? Anyone from the Cultural Council here? Bob, can you give me any kind of an update on this?
We had a visit from the town clerk this afternoon, who said that this person was an applicant and that there was some urgency that we do the appointment tonight, and made a special request to the board. And she said that she knows the individual and thinks that he would serve the town very well.
What's the urgency?
I guess they're having a crucial meeting of some kind. Could be involved with application for the state funding that they typically get. So
I wish
they may need to have a quorum to do that. I'm just speculating, but
we pass over this and see if somebody comes in a little bit? It'd be nice if we at least
I
had
don't know.
somebody here.
Yeah, we have to be consistent when we are doing
Right,
appointments, that, you know,
Absolutely.
we have either the person there or somebody here to endorse them.
You want to, you know what, bring the town clerk in. I'm going to hold the dog hearing back for a little bit. We also have a signature for the Conservation Commission on something,
Yeah,
for CR Winding River Land Trust. Why
right.
don't we pull that up, bring the
Okay.
town clerk here, do that, and that way there she can go back to her business and,
She'll have to notarize that anyway.
right.
Right.
So Bob's got the signature page for that.
So this, we already approved this, so this is
Correct.
just to take care of the legal paperwork.
Right. And I wouldn't mind just making a motion to reaffirm our vote to move this forward.
Okay.
And
So
don't
I
see
can
it handily.
bring it up here.
Page 27. Under old business.
Yeah.
Da-da-dum.
Want me to?
Sure,
read it?
either way.
Okay, so it's basically an agreement between Winding River Land Conservancy and the town of Southampton, and as I understand it, the conservation restriction will be transferred over to the Conservation Commission in town here,
Right, and away from them.
and away from them,
And it's for that,
right?
bridge and subdivision area down there.
Right, it's
What-
Red Brook.
Yes. All right, so this is
Right.
just reaffirming it. Do I hear a motion to reaffirm the vote?
I'll make a motion to reaffirm the vote.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. Clerk,
Yep.
catching that okay? I didn't mean to shift
Yeah,
gears
it's
like
right
that, but
here.
if I'm pulling the town clerk in for something else, I might as well.
And Bob has the pages? Or Jim, do you?
I got a copy of it, I don't have the.
So
Bob's
we
got
all
the
have to
original.
sign this according to this,
Yeah,
right?
so we're waiting for the town clerk.
And you have the original.
Hi.
Hi, you have any light you can shed on Jason Johnson relative to the Cultural Council?
I know the chair of the Cultural Council called yesterday and wanted to make sure that he was appointed tonight. And let's see, the Cultural Council only meets like once or twice a year to distribute funds for cultural events. And they're going to be meeting at the beginning of December. I forgot what day it was. I think it's next Thursday. So they were hoping to get him on board.
But we don't have any information. We don't, I mean, it'd be nice if someone was here or they gave us something. It's a little,
I thought he was planning on attending. I know him a little bit. I don't know if I can speak for him.
All right, well,
He was the JV soccer coach for a few years up at New Hampshire Regional. He lives in town. He has some children in town.
maybe, we can
table this for an hour?
Yeah.
hopefully he'll be up.
All right,
Okay, I can actually let my assistant know because she's also on the Cultural Council and see what's up. See
Would
if
you
he
please?
plans on coming. Okay,
also, we just voted to reaffirm the land trust, so we need you to notarize our signatures.
okay,
So
okay.
if you don't mind,
Sure, that'd be great.
that's all
Do it
done. We're
now.
just waiting for Bob to show up with the page.
Does he have the original?
Land trust.
I'm dragging this. It's a well-oiled machine.
Jeannie, in the past, we've been hesitant to appoint people without having some paperwork, somebody speaking, like a little bit more information about them. So this was a little bit last minute, and I just don't even know who it is, or don't really feel like I can vote in favor of that until I have
Okay.
either he speak to his interest in the committee, or have somebody or the Cultural Council endorse him or something.
Right, right. Okay, sure.
How many members on culture? Council?
There's quite a few, actually. They can have, I'm not sure if there's a limit that the Cultural Council can have. It's different than most boards and committees. You know, it has the state guidelines and,
And what's needed for a quorum then? How many? Do you
Right,
know?
that's what I was gonna get to.
How many votes are needed for a quorum? You don't know?
I'm not sure.
That is a long-standing committee.
I know one of the state requirements is you can't serve more than, I think it's like 2 terms, and then you have to take a year off before you get back on. So after I notarize it, do you want me to hold it? Is it for Marla?
I'm sorry?
Yes.
Is this for
Yes,
conservation?
yeah.
This is the conservation. You need to notarize that, and I guess give it back to Marla. And see if you can track down Jason and get some more information, and we'll just table that for now. Okay? All right. If there's nothing else, I'm going to slide this into the dog hearing. We have the complainants, and we do not have the owners here. This is a quasi-judicial hearing, which means I'm going to have you swear in.
Yes, sir.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear to tell the whole truth but nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Your name and address for the record, sir?
Joseph Usowski, 63 White Loaf Road, Southampton.
Okay. What I'm looking at is a dog living at 55 White Loaf Road, correct? Letters were sent by certified regular mail to both the dog owners and property owners. In the complaint regarding the hearing, a return receipt was received from the complainant, but not from the owners. Current complaints are 1025, 1023, 1014, 823, 819. The complainant had notified the owner of the problem on multiple occasions. The owner has stated that she will correct the problem, but has not done so according to the complainant. The complaint is excessive barking and running loose. On April 10th, complainant reports excessive barking for over 30 minutes. October 14th, excessive barking. 19th, excessive barking, long period of time. August 23rd, excessive barking for over an hour. No one was home at 55 White Loaf. August 28th, the owner said she was in possession of a loose, the neighbor was in possession of a loose dog. Little girl from about 55 White Loaf Road came over to get the dog. August 29th, reported that for the third day in a row, dog from 55 White Loaf was running loose. Owner was adjusting wireless fence. October 25th, complainant reports excess barking for about an hour. Dog outside loose. Owner not home. Owner informed by animal control would be called immediately regarding any future reports of a loose dog. And I guess I have set the tone on all these complaints. I don't think I need to go any further with this. Sir, would you want to give us a little bit of your opinion on this?
Oh, yes, of course, yeah. On numerous nights, Mrs. Washburn's white lab has been left outside barking in their yard for long periods of time at night. Wife and I, we go to bed at 9 o'clock, so we get up at 5 a.m., and the dog's barking makes it difficult for us to sleep. Sometimes it's late at night. I spoke to Mrs. Washburn on 9/8/17. I talked to her on the phone, and she told me that she didn't want her dog to keep anybody up from sleeping at night, and she told me she would correct the problem. Since the day I spoke with her, there's been 3 other instances, 3 other nights the dog, one of them I called the police, and they responded. The police report's in there. And I just want to sleep at night.
Is there anyone here else that wants to address this issue? Okay.
Can I ask a question? I read in the report that there was no dog registered at 55 White Loaf Road. Is that still true after all these complaints?
I do not know.
Yeah, that's what it says right here, so,
What it says, yeah.
That all these police reports and such, and there was
We can
any
check
attempt to get the dog registered?
well, there should be isn't there some sort of ticketing that can be done for that?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the first step, but, you want to check with Janine to see if it has been registered, Charlie?
Yeah, if you want to take a minute.
I was all checked today on the other case.
But not on this one?
I don't know if she checked on this.
Well, it's just going to take a minute. Ask Janine.
So basically, what you said, that every time that there's been, you've been in touch with them or with the police, the response is always the same: we'll take care of it, we'll take care of it, and it keeps happening? Is that basically it?
This has been going on for years. About 4 years ago, there was a period of time when the dog barked halfway into the night. I'm talking late at night. And I got so fed up with it, one day after work, I drove up her driveway to speak to her, or her husband, in which she had told me that they were on vacation at the Cape, and that they had someone watching their dog. And I explained the situation. And this has been going on for many years. And it's those instances that brought me to start document. That's why I've got these 5 days documented.
Yeah.
But there's 15 occasions before these 5.
Well, my opinion is that this board, first of all, notifies the owner of the dog that the dog is considered a public nuisance because of the noise, and that the dog is to be kept quiet. 2, that we instruct the police department to issue them a ticket for having a dog without a license. And 3, the ticket be issued for a dog running at large.
Is this dog only outside when he's barking it annoys you, or when he's in the house, is it very loud and it still bothers you?
Oh, no, sir. They live 250 feet behind us, so when the dog's in the house, it doesn't bother me.
Okay, just when it's outside.
This dog's a large white lab, and it's got a loud, deep voice, even when our window's closed. There's some nights I put my earplugs in to try to sleep. So it's just when it's outside.
Okay.
Bob, did you find out, Bob, that it's not a registered, it's not a registered dog?
So, that's the first thing we gotta do is address the not registered dogs, so we.
Not registered, running at large. Those are the 2 issues that should be issued tickets. And the 3rd is to put the dog owner on notice that the dog's running loose. Now, there's the dog's a noise, the dog is a nuisance because of the noise, and that they have to keep the dog under control. That way, if we get more complaints, we'll come back here again and make this even more stricter. But gotta have a license, and the documentation is showing the dog's running loose. So,
Yeah, those 2 things have to be addressed.
waiting for a motion, guys.
Rainey was gonna make the motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion then that we issue those 3 conditions. 1, that the dog has to be licensed. The second one, that
Tied up?
and also that, put him on notice that the dog has been a public nuisance, and that if it happens again, then they'll be brought in for a sort of escalation of the hearing.
So we're gonna issue tickets for
The first 2.
unregistered
First 2,
and
yes.
running at large.
Mhm.
And then send a letter about the barking, so,
Yep.
as well. I'll second that.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good.
Thank you.
We'll start
Okay,
there.
and we'll see where we go.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next is too early for the tax rate classification. Is the North School ready to jump up front? No?
Sure, I guess.
Well, you got about 7 minutes if you want to talk about the boiler now.
Okay, that's fine.
All right.
Wasn't sure if I was going to have to say anything or if I was just here for questions, so I'm not really here.
Well, I'll start.
Okay.
All right. The Board of Selectmen received notice from the school department day before Thanksgiving that the boiler is down, and it's going to cost about $45,000, and correct me if I'm wrong, to repair this. They have not allocated that kind of money in their general operational budget to absorb something like that. But the need is immediate.
Correct.
So I took it upon myself to review what we were at relative to the capital money and stuff, and suggested, and I need this board to support this, that what the school department does is move forward and does the repairs, and we have about $45,000 uncommitted money in the capital budget, and then we have the capital committee move, of course, they gotta vote for this too, then at town meeting, that $45,000 is brought back to the school committee, or the school department, to basically pay that boiler bill. If we look at the timing of it, it could be that by the time the bill becomes due, town meeting's already taken place, and that money would be available to pay off the debt. So realistically, you wouldn't be taking anything out of the school budget,
Correct.
but
But just so you know, or so that everyone else understands that, we did say we could come up with 14,000 from our budget right now, from our maintenance line of our budget that's already in there, that's there for when things break down or need to be fixed during the year, so,
but if you take that money away from you,
right.
that strips you until,
Then we have nothing if something else happens, exactly, right.
so I was just looking at it, if we have that money in the capital budget, maybe better just to take it from there and just keep you going and still have that money in reserve for whatever might break down this February.
Right.
That's my thought.
We
I
do
don't
have
know.
2 boilers, just so everyone understands. One is the one that is in disrepair, and we are running on one right now, which is keeping us within the right temperature for now, but when the temperature drops down to about 20 degrees, when it gets really cold out, for a few days in a row, then it will be too cold to
Right.
have the children at school or whatever.
So board members, that's the strategy. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think we have no choice. When we were up there for that lockdown, we witnessed that. We actually toured the boiler room to see what it looked like, and it was like, wow, it's in tough shape. The one that's running now, have you evaluated that one thoroughly, or?
I can't
You don't
answer
know how-
that. I know, I wanted to be able to touch
Yeah, I
base
know.
with my head custodian before coming, but he had a death in his family, and he's out for the week, so wasn't able to touch base before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I know that they do get inspected regularly, and I know that we did not anticipate this. It wasn't until that one boiler started leaking, but we understand at the same time that I believe both of these boilers were installed at the same time, and they're about 22 years old.
Right, it looked like the back sections were going to be replaced, and then when they started taking it apart, they
Right.
found that it was a lot worse. for
Exactly. Once they got in there, it was just section upon 14 sections of it and at first they thought it was installation error because it looked like something was tightened, like a PSI issue where there was too much pressure put on the tightening of the bolts or something, which caused it to, over time, separate. But then we had someone else come and look at it, and at this time, it just looked, it's not, it just needs to be done.
So my understanding is there's a 10-year warranty on the boiler, and the boiler's 22 years old, right?
Right.
I'm clear that it has to be fixed, I'm just not clear about the financing of it. So my understanding is that it's going to cost $45,000, and this is to
Correct.
rebuild the boiler.
Correct.
A new one would be $60,000.
Right.
And that's been recommended, that we do the 45, because it would be essentially a new boiler.
Yeah.
So is the request that the school go ahead and do this and then sort of go into a deficit, and then plan on the capital committee and also the town meeting to approve the capital expense of 45 minus 14,000? Is that the plan?
Well,
No, 45. Charlie says. leave
45,
14
so you'd
for
still have
unanticipated.
maintenance funds in your
Right.
budget?
Yeah, I don't want to, I personally would not want to strip them of any
Right.
reserve account so early in the year.
But am I accurate in saying that, so it's going to get done, and so it would be sort of a deficit hanging there until the capital committee
Right.
and the town approves
Right.
or not? Should we be concerned about this not being approved?
I don't think we have a choice. We
Okay.
really got to replace this.
Yep. Oh, I
and it's
agree
the
about
cheaper
that.
way
I
to
just wanted
go.
to be clear about the money.
I know, and I don't think that's my decision. I think,
Right, right.
school committee may play a part, and also select board. I feel like I could just give the information and then,
And I was just trying to give an avenue that had the least damage to town.
Right.
I mean, I realize it's unfortunate, and it's not something, obviously, that we anticipated, and it needs to be fixed, and it's 22 years old, and
And there it is.
all those things. And the rug in the library, which is part of the capital improvement plan that we're looking for now, originally, is a tripping hazard, and we did get dinged on that in the inspection in August. It was something that needed to be taken care of right away, so that's why that kind of went to the forefront of the capital improvement plan, asking for that.
Yeah, I have one question. We're almost at the point we're going to be a green community. at what point are funds going to be available for maybe something like this?
I did have a phone call with Mr. Jim Barry, who runs the Green Communities Program in Western Mass, to check up on this matter. We still have not been certified. All paperwork went in on the 31st of October. There's going to be some back and forth. He wanted clarification of a couple of items. We worked yesterday and part of today to answer the questions that they have. I would expect that the town will get certification sometime before the first of the year. And then, as he explained, the process is you can then apply for grant funding for energy improvements of all kinds. And as you, I hope you know, in the energy reduction plan that we had to submit, we put energy conservation at the Norris School as the highest priority. Simply because it uses over 60% of the energy and there's a lot of work to be done.
Yep.
However, once we apply, unfortunately, town will not be eligible to receive grants until the next fiscal year. So we apply in this fiscal year, and the funds would then be granted after July 1st of 2018.
Which would not
Although
include the boiler.
This will count towards the goal of the Green Communities Program, which we have to meet, of reducing energy usage by 20% over 5 years. This is going to be a big step in that direction, certainly. Not only, fixing the problem, but also having a more efficient system. And is there a 5-year plan that, I think it would be useful in the whole budget process if the town had
I have
a 5-year estimate?
shared the capital plan priorities with the select board before, and the school committee, I update the school committee regularly on what our needs are. And then it seems like every year, first it was the mandate with the computers for MCAS testing, and that kind of had to go to the forefront, and then the library carpeting came to the forefront, and now the boiler, which was kind of far down the list. We're just constantly playing catch up.
Just so you know, the carpeting has not been taken off the list.
Right, I know.
Okay.
I know. I just wanted to keep it in
Yeah.
everyone's mind in case you didn't remember. Charlie, I know you remembered. I just didn't know if everybody else did.
Oh, I remember.
Glad to see everybody's watching
I'm
out.
sorry. I have to say it again to keep it in my own head.
Charlie, another question. You mentioned that repairing this boiler is $45,000, a new one is $60,000. Is there an efficiency benefit if you go with new? I mean, will we get a return on our money there for that extra 15?
And Bob, I'm sorry, I don't know if. I just want to say, when you said this might put us in line with the green validation or certification, I don't have any information that says that the replacement of the sections of the boiler that we need replaced will put us, is green at all. I don't,
I think you're right.
okay.
Right.
I just don't want people to think that that's what we're doing.
I had a conversation with the head custodian, and I said, let's talk about all the energy conservation measures, weatherization, and so forth.
Yeah.
And he said, do you know that one of the boilers is leaking? He said, I did not know that. We put that on the plan,
Oh, okay.
but we put it on as a replacement of the system.
Right, okay.
If it's just repairing the boiler itself, and if you have an older, inefficient system to run it, I'm not sure that you're going to get an energy savings.
Right, okay.
Right. I think that we may want to consider, if you spend the extra $15,000, you're going to get a brand new boiler with probably better efficiency. You may be eligible for the green, and you may have a better warranty. It may be worth thinking about that. That's all. Just throwing that out there.
And it's a ton of rebates going out for boilers right now.
Right. Just something to think about.
Well,
I mean, you're probably running at 60%. The new system would run 85 or better.
may I suggest we do this? we tell them that we're in favor of them spending the 45. If they want to take the other 15 they have and get a new boiler, and they do the numbers and it seems to work, then we encourage them to do that. And if they still see a shortfall, if we get into that situation, we could pull another 5-10 grand out of stabilization if we had to. But I agree that you're so close to replacing it with a new energy efficient boiler. Check those numbers out.
Yeah, I would lean that way. I would think that makes it better.
I just want
And we
this
have-
board to basically say to the school department,
Yeah,
move this forward any way you go, try to get the best deal that you can get. But you're already into December, so you're gonna need
Right.
to do something.
Right. And we have a school committee meeting tomorrow night, so we can discuss that.
So,
Yeah.
how's that sound?
But just, just being available for, a rebate from the, being green.
Well, that will help
Makes it
us,
almost- I
but it'll
understand.
be a year from now.
Yeah, we can submit it now, he said, and get the money a year from now. But
But you can submit it now? I
Right, that's
thought
what
you
you
haven't
said.
even been certified yet.
Certified, you can
Right.
submit. So, I think we'll get certified within the next month. As soon as the certification comes in, then we can submit, and then we'll come through in the following fiscal year.
Right,
The repair will not qualify.
but a new boiler would.
Yeah, new burner, I think.
Would.
Huge burner.
Yeah, so,
Even retrospectively? Even retroactive?
I talked to him about that, and he said, well, frankly, if you spend the money on the boiler, he said, it's spent, and we're not going to fund it. But maybe the solution would be to prepare to change the burner, however much that would cost in addition, and to apply for grant funding for that. And not, just do the boiler repair now, if it can be separated, I think it can be, and then prepare to do a new burner system with grant funding after July 1.
yeah, come on, Mike.
Yeah, who
Mike's
wants
dying
to-
to say,
So, I don't know the specific situation, Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street. I don't know the specific situation with the boiler, but just changing the boiler, the pieces itself is not going to improve efficiencies on it. It's the burner, it's the controls, it's the dampers and everything that's in the system that improves it. So, to be honest, if we're looking to capitalize on the energy reduction in the future, you should look to replacing the burner, the boiler, and probably associated controls with that. It'll be more money, but if the end goal is to spend that money anyways, we might as well spend it now. And then we have 2 boilers, same vintage. We should start planning to replace the other one next year. Or, realistically, if you got a plan to reduce the energy, you might as well plan it in capital for next year, because it's the same year it's going to go sooner or later, right?
I think the discussion was, though, to see if there's any way we can capitalize on grants from being a green community, and the timing is just about
Right.
a little bit
Miss it by
off.
that.
Right. You are, but
But
the
bill
Green
doesn't
Communities
come in.
it's a taxpayer-funded group, right? So all the grant money comes from tax dollars. I would assume some conversation with legislation and the directors of that there'd be some leniency, right? The grants themselves come from the taxpayers. It all filters down, then filters back out to all the town people. So, maybe some phone calls could help with that.
I think at this point in time, we're encouraging the school department to move forward, and the school department needs to do an evaluation and decide what they want to bring back to the capital committee on that, replacing the boiler system or patching the boiler system. And I don't remember off the top of my head, but I believe the capital committee is meeting like the first week of December.
We have 3 school committee members here. I just didn't know if anybody wanted to speak before we make a motion.
Yeah, I'm just, Erin Kuchar, 49 Coleman Road. So I guess my question is, so what happens to the 15 that was already being presented to the capital committee, and then on top of that, a potential 45 that would be the boiler when, I'm confused.
The 15 for the carpeting
Yep,
has been put on hold for further information by the capital committee. That was long before all this.
right?
But when this came up, the discussion was, remember, capital committee hasn't met. This has been basically the day before Thanksgiving, everything's
Absolutely,
thrown.
yeah.
I'm trying to figure out a way of making this work with the town administrator, and this is the ideas we came up with. The 45 is available in the capital fund because it's non-committed funding right now. It's there. So the 15 would probably come out of stabilization. The 45 would come out of the capital budget. So both would get funded. But if you're going to add on to that another $20,000 to put in a whole new boiler system, capital committee doesn't have that money. So it's either coming out of the school department budget or it's going to have to come out of stabilization. Am I making sense with this, Aaron?
I am. I get that.
I
The-
just,
The
you know.
20 over here, I can tell you there's nothing in the budget for 20.
Well, then
So
that's
I-
gone.
Right, right. I'm just trying to be honest. So I'm just trying to think of, like, we have all the pieces, and I think you mentioned that, I think it's next, the 6th is when the capital committee's meeting,
I don't remember off the top of my head. It sounds right.
right? So then we have to, between now and before the 6th, be able to come to capital with the request for that, whatever
Right.
we're doing, if we're doing the 45,
Right.
or whatever that is.
Right.
Okay. I'm just trying to be
I
clear
mean,
what,
the good part of this is there is 45,000 sitting there that's non-committed right now. So there's some money to make this work. The real question is, do you want to go that extra $20,000? And are we going to get a benefit as the town from that? And that's where you, as the school committee and the school department, need to sit down and go back to the capital committee and say, this is what we want.
right.
Yeah, I
And
think-
then it'll go to the select board again to be put on as a warrant, and then the townspeople have to vote to authorize it.
We're behind you fixing it one way or the other.
Right, right,
Just-
right.
you
Yeah, I
guys
hear
have
that, just trying to figure
Decide
out.
which way is going to be the best. And
Yeah.
Remember, you're going to get a lot of return on your efficiency too down the road, so, and plus the warranty will be a lot longer. You still got an old front end of a burner. You still could have issues with the current one, so.
And it's entirely possible that next year we get green community money that we can put in the capital to replace the other boiler.
Okay,
But that's not even here, that's down here someplace,
right. Okay. All
okay?
right. Yep.
So do you need a motion?
I don't know, because we really aren't taking any official action, it's more just a discussion so everyone understands why we're where we're at. It's up to the school department and the school committee to decide. They now have an understanding that the select board is supporting them, so I think that's all we need to do.
Okay.
And round up everything, get it down the capital, and see where we go. Only if you go to the podium.
So, just for
Did you
clarification.
just introduce yourself and where you live?
Doreen Bashista, 65 Pleasant Street. So, there's 45,000, and then if school committee can't come up with the other 20, there's another area we could get it from?
We have a stabilization account, that's there for rainy day, we'll call
So we
it.
could use
We
stabilization
could go
if
into
we
that
had
if
to.
we had to.
Yes.
The
Okay.
question's going to be able to sell this at town meeting floor, that this was a benefit to the town to spend that additional 20.
Which our conversation could be, it could go for the green
Possibly.
if we do it.
Yeah.
It's possible
we
for the
just-
green, and it's also, it's a definite that you're going to save on efficiency.
Right.
So there might be two benefits
I
there,
mean,
plus the warranty.
You could put the new boiler in, get more efficiency, and come back to us and say, we're gonna save $10,000 in 5 years just on fuel consumption,
Perfect. Okay. I just want
okay?
to clarify.
But
that
those
that's two
numbers
different
aren't
accounts.
here,
Right.
you know? We just
Okay.
want the school department to know that we're supporting them to try to make this work, because their budget's gonna be out of line,
Perfect. Thank you.
okay? We all set with the school stuff?
Yeah, good.
All right, our next hearing, which we're a little bit late, is the tax rate classification hearing, which was supposed to start at 6:30, so it is starting at, we'll call it 6:42, 6:43. Is there anyone here from the assessor's office?
I was contacted by the assessors today saying that they were not aware of this particular item on the agenda, like, are they supposed to contact us, or that they weren't asked to be here? At least Janet wasn't.
We've been talking about it. I'm speechless. Just have to be pushed over to the 12th.
Okay.
Yeah, we advertised
It
it
is
tonight.
advertised.
Can we continue it to the 12th? And do we have to
Yeah,
re-advertise?
I would say open it and continue to the 12th.
Okay, it's been open. Can
Do we
I
have
hear
to
a motion to
read,
continue?
do we have to read in the advertisement or anything like
I
that? I
can-
didn't know what the,
I can certainly,
Add here if you
I
want to
think we should just
You
read
wanna
it
read it,
anyway,
Bob?
for the record.
For the record?
it's amazing how much paperwork there is for.
Southampton Selectboard notice of a public hearing tax classification hearing. The Southampton Selectboard will hold a tax rate classification hearing on Tuesday, November the 28th, 2017, at 6:30 PM in the first floor meeting room at Town Hall, 210 College Highway, and during the Select Board's regular meeting. It was advertised on November the 21st.
Okay.
Hear a motion to
If you-
continue the
If you
meeting?
continue the meeting, to do it on the 12th.
Yeah, I make a motion to continue it to December 12th.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous.
So
Next-
Bob, excuse me, will you contact, or who should contact the assessors and ask them to be present and
I'll make
prepared
sure
to?
that they know, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Our next hearing scheduled is for 6:45. It being 6:45, this is a pole relocation hearing with Eversource. Is there a representative from Eversource?
Hello, I'm Tyler Nelson Eros, and I'm representing Eversource for the poll hearing.
My understanding is this is pretty much just a standard move.
Correct, yeah. So we're not relocating any poles. All we need to do is install 2 poles from the east side of Moose Brook and go put one on the south side, one on the north side of it, and then one on the south side to anchor the pole in front of 91 Moose Brook.
I thought this was about Pleasant Street.
Yeah, I see Pleasant Street here.
Pleasant Street. No, this is for Moose Brook from what I've been told.
Yeah, this was Moose Brook because I remember we had scheduled everything and I met with the neighbors
Yeah, for Victor
midsummer.
Gorboski, yeah.
Yeah, and we went over this.
Everything I have says Pleasant, even the sketch says Pleasant Street.
And we already had a hearing about Moose Brook. Is this something?
This is another Moose Brook. That first one was for 77 through 79, and this one's going to be for 91.
Then why do we have paperwork on Pleasant Street?
Well, there's probably 2.
I didn't get
Yeah,
anything for,
so I don't know
I don't
anything
have
about
anything
that one.
about Moose Brook.
I'm sorry, the second is going to be scheduled for the 12th.
What was that again?
Second what?
There are 2 poll hearings.
Okay.
The one that you have on your agenda tonight,
It's Pleasant Street.
It's Pleasant Street.
and there's one that's going to be on the agenda for the 12th.
Okay, so Victor's understanding that was going to be tonight, and the reason being is he was the one that gave flack back to the city about how long it took because it was ready in August. All the paperwork was submitted in August. August or September.
I remember doing it.
Yeah,
That's why
exactly.
We did.
We didn't do the hearing for this one, though. We did 3 polls up from the east side, or the west side of where the intersection of Cherry Lane. We did 3 polls for that. And that was a couple months ago in the summer. And then the new request came in, and I believe the paperwork was sent in September, and it got misplaced somewhere with the town office. And Victor called in a couple times and said that we could get it in for today. For the other side, there's 2 pole lines that don't connect.
Yes. We looked into that, and as you know, our chief assessor was ill. Apparently, the message or the letter was sent to the assessor's office and sat on his desk.
Okay. All right. Well, I could feel the Pleasant Street. I don't really have too much knowledge from it or remember it right now.
Well, the Pleasant Street one is posted for tonight.
Okay.
I actually have the posting.
Okay. We didn't receive any notice of it. I don't know if that got lost in the mail. I mean, I can present it off the sketch if you have a spare one.
I'm looking.
Use mine.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Nicholas Lane.
It's just one pole.
15 southwesterly. Center line at Nicholas Lane. Pole needs to be reclaimed for future service work.
It says to relocate one pole on the easterly side of Pleasant Street, approximately 1,500 feet southwesterly of the center line of Nicholas Lane.
Yeah, I'm having trouble recalling.
Yeah, I saw the chart and everything. I don't have a problem with that.
I don't have an issue with what's being proposed.
Okay,
On Pleasant Street, anyway.
okay.
Do I hear a motion to,
Is there anyone here that, from the public that wants to speak to that?
Oh, Mr. Bushista?
Yes, we
yeah?
6 feet come from that pole too. That's all I wanted to say, and they could probably, we have a mast, which will a little drive in front.
Oh, correct. All right, now I'm remembering. Yeah, that one's, we're just going to actually shorten the span on that. It's going to end up
Yes.
working out in your favor.
And we could, there is a telephone pole of our own right near that mast.
Mhm.
So it would raise the wire up higher, so you could put the cable and the telephone. Otherwise, I think the cable line is so low on the east side of the street, you'd almost have to cross the wire that brings electricity in.
Okay.
I don't think you'd like that.
No, no.
So you start with, raise them all up onto the
Correct.
existing pole we have.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this one is just the pole's smack dab right in the middle of the driveway. It's kind of a two-way driveway.
Yeah.
And he just needs to get bigger vehicles in there to do the construction. So we're just going to move it down 100 feet or so. And that'll shorten the span between the two poles that are already existing.
All right, it sounds like the neighbor doesn't have an issue with this, so
Okay.
do I,
Motion to approve the moving of the pole, and the one that's on Pleasant Street.
right,
So as for Moose Brook,
wait a minute. Do I hear a second?
Okay,
Sorry.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
2 copies.
I apologize for that, by the way.
As for Moose Brook,
Have you notarized or anything?
there's
Town
no
clerk's certificate.
notice that was posted in the paper. So
Victor,
therefore,
Does she have to?
Victor's going to be upset.
I understand that. Let him call me up and yell at me,
Okay,
okay?
I'll let you
Because,
field that one.
I mean, you know, what am I gonna say?
Okay. All right, well then I appreciate your time, and
Sign it,
I'll
I'll take it.
probably see you in December.
Wait for the
December 12th.
signatures on this.
No.
Okay,
So we have two of them signed?
I won't actually be
Two-
taking it
There
though.
are two identical, and we have to
2
sign both.
originals have to be signed.
Cash.
Every time I turn around, we're talking about that Moose Brook Road
Yeah,
pole.
well, that's the one that
It's faster for us to just go put it in.
if we had it his way, we would have.
I know. Oh, man.
But I don't actually need to take any of the paperwork now. The town office usually sends it
Just
in.
want to make sure it gets signed so it doesn't get lost.
Perfect,
You know?
perfect.
It's got to go to the town clerk too, bottom part. So you're saying the next poll hearing is going to be the next, the 12th?
Well, we'll be back to Moose Brook Road again. Now,
It's
this
2
needs to
weeks.
go to town clerk.
Yeah, Bob said he'll take it in.
Take it in.
You want to take this to town clerk?
Sure, why not?
Right.
Take it in.
Solemnly swear you're
Probably
going
still
to actually
there.
hand
Take
this
it
to
in
them?
tonight.
Okay.
All right.
I can tell,
All right.
Vic, that you lost it.
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next order of business, if I'm reading this right, is the Public Safety Committee.
It's shy of 7.
At 7.
It's shy of 7. Well, it's okay. Town Administrator's Report.
Okay. I can, first of all, give you an update
That's yours.
on the October 17th decision that you made regarding another dog problem. That is, we checked today again, there's no response from the owner on the decision that you made, including the decision that he provide insurance. And so we're going to send the police department out. So, no compliance, no communication. If you recall, your decision was that he had to communicate back to the town that he had the insurance by mid-November, and we did not receive anything from him. Velda did make contact or attempt to make contact, no response. So I think the next step would be sending the police department.
Okay.
And what would they do?
I guess they'll start issuing tickets for non-compliance with the decision of the Board of Selectmen. Okay, so the regular report, the Hampshire Regional High School is about to begin a search for a new superintendent. And I think you know this, that they're asking for representation from the 5 towns. So far, we don't have anyone who has stepped forward. So my question is, do any of the members of this board wish to step forward and present themselves? And we'll see if any other towns have candidates, and one person will be seated on the search committee.
So my understanding is there are 14 members of this committee, and so the chairs of each of the school committees are on the committee,
Right.
as well as a teacher at secondary, teacher at elementary,
Right.
and an administrator, and that they're looking for a representative. I mean, we have over 50% of the students in the school. I had hoped, I've been on a search committee in the past for superintendent, and it was a good experience. I was kind of hoping that we would have somebody, were they looking, when you said town member,
Does not have to be a member of the Board of Selectmen.
so a representative from the
Yes.
town?
Well, I guess we're making the announcement now, if anyone has an interest.
Yeah.
To,
When's it going to start?
after the first of the year. So
Okay,
we have some
a little bit of
time.
Okay.
I think there may be a candidate from one of the other
There
member
is.
towns.
She used to serve in the Hampshire Regional School
Yep.
Committee with me, and she was a present or former teacher.
Yes.
And she was on the Hampshire Regional School Committee at the time. It's definitely from one of the smaller towns. It'd be great to have more Southampton representation. If anybody out there is interested in being on the committee, I think it'd be great. I have a couple of people I could certainly recommend.
Mm-hmm.
Can I speak for a minute? So I'm chair of the school committee for Norris, and I'm part of the committee that's the search committee that's being put together. And I just want to put it out there, I think they want the committee to be established by the end of this week, because we're that quick on needing to get getting together and getting all the information going. So whoever is interested, we'd want them to say, obviously sooner than later, that they're interested. We do have pretty good representation for Southampton as far as well. I mean, we have our principal of Norris is going to be on the committee, and the principal of Hampshire Regional. So we do have from from Norris itself, we have that. So, but I do agree. I would love to see someone from Southampton. We also
Teachers are from what school district?
one teacher is from Norris.
Okay.
And then one teacher it would be from the regional. We do have a open position for a parent and a special ed parent. So those could be from Southampton also. So those are some open positions still, if people have.
And who appoints this, the school committee, Hampshire Regional, or how does somebody get appointed to this?
I think they show interest, and then it comes to the advisory committee. I think so. It's showing interest. I think I would say to
Who's the chair of the search committee?
we don't have a chair.
You have somebody you hired.
We did, Fran Goodgen. I can always get them to the right place. So if someone needed to, I can always get them to get their name to the right place to say if they're interested.
So you have a meeting tomorrow night?
We do. We have a
So that
school
would be
committee meeting
great.
at 6.
Anybody interested should
Yep.
show up there tomorrow night?
Yeah, school committee at 6 in the library.
I've also communicated with the superintendent as to the membership on the bargaining committee for the new teacher contract. That we have two members of the select board will alternate and serve on that very important committee.
Bob, would you just repeat that again, please?
At our recent meeting, it was decided that two members of the select board will alternate on the bargaining committee for a new teacher contract.
Right.
So I communicated that to the superintendent.
So we already voted for Jim and
Correct.
John to
Right.
alternate.
Correct. As far as the TIF working group, we did not meet in November. We are going to meet in December and finalize the proposal for the special town meeting in January. You have before you the first draft, and I stress first draft, of our projected revenue for fiscal 2019. It is time for the budget process to get underway. What we are looking for is a set of priorities or goals from the Board of Selectmen that can be incorporated with the worksheets that are sent out to the departments. Now, ordinarily, I would say, where do you want to spend the new money, in effect? If you take a look at the lower right-hand corner of this spreadsheet, and this situation may improve, but right now, it looks like new revenue will be in the range of $221,000. That's not so good. Not very good at all, in fact. If you consider the fixed costs that we have, benefit fixed costs, that is to say retirement and health insurance, will increase typically in the range of $140,000. So if you get 221, we'll have an assessment from the regional school, from the local school, and I know that there's an issue with the new part-time conservation agent, and also the whole business of aligning wages and salaries of the municipal department heads, or salaries of the municipal department heads, and paying the wages that are in the existing contracts, which are at 2%. So it looks as though, at this point at least, that we are facing a squeeze. And I wasn't being ultra-conservative here. I was just being, I'd say, fairly conservative in terms of the estimates. You're not going to see much change at the top for property taxes. We know exactly what we're going to get in terms of 2.5%. We don't know exactly what we're going to get for new growth, but if you take a look at what was projected for new growth on the recap and what we actually got, we projected this fiscal year 180,000 in new growth, almost 180 in new growth, and we got 123,000. So I put down 125. That might be conservative. We hope it is. We know, I did speak with the building commissioner, and he's issuing permits. But he's issuing permits for small jobs in existing homes. He's not issuing permits for new housing projects or new single-family homes. And so just where that number ought to be is going to be a question, I think, that may not get firmed up until mid-spring. But I put 125 in there simply because I don't want to overestimate what we're going to get from new growth for the coming year. Rest of those numbers are fixed. And as you can see, the excluded debt amount is going down significantly from $606,000 to $457,000. Why? We are retiring bonds or retiring excluded debt. So when you retire it, you don't get the revenue. It goes away. And so this is part of the reason why we're seeing a bit of a squeeze on revenue. Education aid, I don't know that there's any surprises there. As far as state aid to general government, again, I did a conservative number there because the state is facing a fiscal squeeze right now. The governor has got, he says, on the order of $1 billion in shortfalls for the coming year, estimated. And so I don't expect that there's going to be a lot of new state money coming to the cities and towns for education aid or for general government aid. So I think we have to be conservative there until third week in January when we see what the governor's budget is going to recommend in terms of revenue. Looking at local receipts, we went over that very carefully. And I did go up on motor vehicle tax. Not a lot. This year, we estimated 905,000. Cars are still selling. They're selling bigger cars. And so I went to 920, which again might be a little conservative, but it's up. It's not down. The rest of those numbers, I think, will hold the same. Again, we're not going to use any stabilization money. We're not planning to use any free cash in the operating budget, which is a very conservative fiscal principle and probably the most responsible thing that any town can do, and that is not be tempted to use free cash to operate, because free cash doesn't come necessarily the next year, and you might be creating a deficit in fiscal 20 by using free cash in fiscal 19. So there it is, projected $221,538 in new revenue for next year. So. Mm-hmm.
Makes it difficult for the select board to make any direction when you're basically saying it's 0-0.
Yeah. I'd be inclined to say to the departments, give us a current services budget. In other words, fund existing services level funded. Only allow for contractual increases, if there's a labor contract, or any other uncontrollable increase. So, at this point, at least, I think that's probably what we have to do. I don't see any money there for raises. I don't see any money for anything else, actually. The town will be fortunate to cover its existing expenses in fiscal 19 without making cuts.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I know.
Welcome, Ed.
Yeah. Somebody just got off the Titanic. Oh, well. Oh, you know. Anything else on your report?
Well, yeah, a couple other things. We did have, I think, a successful seminar on the open meeting law, which is now posted on our website. And I think the town should continue to take advantage of this service from town council by having them come on a regular basis, maybe twice a year, to update department heads and others who are chairs of boards and committees and members of boards and committees on what's required at the local level by state statutes. Obviously, the next one ought to be either the public records law or the law involving sexual harassment and hostile work environment. Because although we haven't had any problems, it's important to have the information conveyed to decision makers in the town government, particularly department heads, as to what's required of them. And let me say parenthetically, remember we talked about saying this, Charlie, I'm not sure that
Yes, thank you.
just say parenthetically, that
Yes.
when we did the interviews for town administrators, I was asked to put together hypothetical questions, not connected with any existing problems necessarily within town government. And one of the questions I wrote down, which we asked the candidates, was, what happens if you have a substance abuse problem with your department head in the highway department? Let me just say emphatically, we do not have a substance abuse problem. We do not have a substance abuse problem with the department head in the highway department. That's a question I made up. We have to make up questions somehow, and we have to use sort of concrete examples. And so that just turned out like that, and we got feedback that some folks were wondering after that question was posed by the selectmen if a real problem does exist there. It does not exist. And we would know about it if it did. So apologies for creating some problems for our highway superintendent, who does an excellent job. Green Communities update, I more or less gave you the update. We're expecting certification this month. We're doing a little bit of back and forth with them and making and clarifying some questions that they've raised. We expect certification. Upcoming meetings, December the 12th and December the 19th for the Board of Selectmen. And I'm asking the board if a special town meeting on January 16th is your decision. So we have checked to see if facilities are available and if the moderator's available.
The 16th, because we had at one point said 23rd.
Yes, we
We
did,
just threw it out there.
but the 16th
So
was
it's
fitting.
16?
Yeah.
I think the one conflict was the week before.
That's right, the
We
week
were
before.
asked not to schedule the week before.
Right.
So,
Okay, Bob?
I'm all set, thank you.
All right, let me just sort of follow you along here. Glendale Road, we met with the Department of Transportation this afternoon. We are to the point now where we're going to send notices out to the abutters about easements relative to those properties. Those letters should be going out in a week or two, and then we're going to start the discussions for those easements. So if you're watching this, you'll be seeing something in the mail in a couple of weeks. All right, I guess we'll move now to the public safety.
Did we want to set a date for the town meeting?
It's down the agenda later.
Okay, I didn't know, we were just talking about it.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's-
that's fine.
Besides, I get confused easily if we keep jumping around. Public Safety Building Committee. We were in a position here where things were not moving at all, and which is normal with Southampton. Well, Don can come on up. I mean, I'm not stopping him.
I didn't know whether you were, last meeting, you did the minutes at this, after the 28th.
Right. You have the minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
You do whatever you want to do it. I just want to tell you.
Don, come on up to the podium.
Minutes are available whenever you choose.
Well,
Consider them.
we haven't seen the minutes. So please hand a copy to all the committee members.
Thank you.
And we're not going to be able to vote on this tonight, Don, because we just received them.
I got extra copies. Anybody else wants? Bill?
Bill, review this, please. Review this. Yes, give us a report. I understand
Want
that.
to borrow my glasses? Okay. Can I read it to you?
Thank you.
I was going to put the minutes aside for our next meeting. Okay?
Okay, whatever.
I mean, because
Sure.
they're just dropped in front of us here. All right. About 2 years ago, we tried to move forward with a public safety building, and basically all kinds of questions were raised, concerns about where it was located, so on and so forth. There's presently a lot of activity occurring behind the scenes on the old Frank Wayne property off of Route 10, over between Cumberland Farms and O'Grady Law Firm and all the rest of that. And the individuals that are in negotiations to purchase that land have approached me to discuss the possibility of putting the public safety complex on that property. This is a rough draft so that people can see what the conversation's all about. Basically, that being Route 10, all that front property is commercial. The discussion is to put a street in here with a cul-de-sac and take the land behind the commercial property and have that utilized as the public safety complex. This here is what we used to call Strawberry Manor. This is Easthampton Savings Bank over here, just to give you a quick overview. I want to stress the fact that this party that's purchasing this is in negotiations with the persons or parties that own this property, and this has not been concluded at this point. This is extremely preliminary, but because it's circulating in town, we felt it was best to at least show everybody that the town does have a toe in the door to discuss the possibilities of building this there. This is about 3.5 acres. We just dropped a little sketch here. That is not what I suspect is going to be the final. We're looking at somewhere, and this is just a guess based on square footage, of anywhere between $8 and $10 million to build this. And that may sound like a lot of money, but if you start looking at what it costs to build a school or a library and that, you'll find that those are real numbers. It opens up other questions like what would happen if we move for a debt exclusion. By 2020, which is really about 1.5 years from now, we will have reduced our debt load by about $400,000 a year, which means that this kind of a debt load would pretty much bring our taxes maybe a little bit up, but it would be really, really close to what it is today. There wouldn't be really a change in the taxes. I was talking to the town accountant about this. Remember, this is all very raw preliminary discussion. This is not like somebody has spent weeks crunching numbers and projecting things. I will open this up for discussion if anybody would like to come to the podium to talk. Dan, what happened? You didn't go to the podium.
Charlie, can you just say what some of those things say there? I mean, is it parking?
All right, that would be the fire station, and that would be the driveway out. The blue area would be the police station. The green area would be basically what we open as the general public area, dispatch, maybe a meeting room, that kind of stuff. There would be parking here for the police. There'd be, this is the general public, this would be the police here, this would be the fire department. This could very well just be a driveway to get around back. You're probably looking at septic systems here, probably a little bit of storm water detention basement, that kind of stuff. Like I said, this is very, very raw information. But if you look at that lot and you figure it's 3.5 acres and you look at what's being proposed, there's a lot of potential for growth over the next 50 to 100 years. And it doesn't intrude on the neighborhood because the houses are like here and over in here and here, so you're actually quite far away from them. This would be a win-win for the town of Southampton in the sense that everyone over the years has always been pushing, at least myself on this committee, why don't we look at this land? The reality is we could never possibly afford to buy this 50-something acres. The people that are looking to purchase this are willing to negotiate with us for the 3 acres, 3.5 acres. The other part to this is, part of the discussion is that if this happens, it'll take us 3 to 4 months through negotiations and all that. One of the lines of discussion is this land is not going to be available forever. The town will have probably about 2 years to make a decision. After that, if no decision's made, this land will revert back to the original owners and they'll take and do whatever they think they want to do. So, sure, Mike, you want to come up?
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Finance Committee Chair. Do we have an assessed value on the 3.5 acres with the easement for the road? No assessed value?
No.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, if they take and build all this commercial and put the road in, there'll be more tax base coming into the town. But will this value? I don't know.
Okay. Is it, you probably don't want to disclose the entity. Is it a developer? Is it a...
I am not really at liberty to discuss this any further. The only reason it's sitting in front of everybody is because there's so many rumors going on in town that we at least wanted to let people know that the town has a foot in the door and we're discussing this.
Okay. So is this something you'd look to, they would be looking to put in their purchase and sale agreement, or is this would be an outside contract, a 2-year window, or is it a handshake deal?
It would never be a handshake deal. What would occur is if they move forward with their purchase, then we would probably move forward in executive session as a select board and have a purchase and sale agreement drafted with those parties. I'm just giving you a little insight of what part of the discussion has been.
So do they have a purchase and sale agreement for the property?
My understanding is it's under negotiation.
So this would be the 3rd property we would acquire for the public safety building on a different site?
I know about the second one, the first one, but I don't know about
There's
the
the
third
one behind the fire station.
Right.
We're looking to acquire property next to the police station.
That just enhances that building.
That was originally part of the selling point, was that you could utilize it for parking for a potential revamping of the police station there.
It is, but we
Okay.
are also looking at talking to community preservation about taking the $30,000 that was going to be evaluated for that building, for the police station, and using it to evaluate it to be a senior center, cultural center, which would still need that parking, so on and so forth. In fact, the intent is to go out there and dig some deep holes in a couple of weeks just to verify soils.
Okay. My apprehension, just as a resident, as a member of the Finance Committee, is we're looking to basically get into an agreement to purchase another property. We just saw the revenue projections for next year. I mean, do we want to really be looking at taking on more debt going forward? I mean, it's just, and I know it's original, first discussion, it's in front of everyone for the first time, but, 3.5 acres adjacent to a commercial zone, it's not inexpensive, let's be honest. I'm sure it's not going to be a, $5,000 per acre type of purchase. Maybe it is, maybe it works out, but just apprehensive. Looking at what we're looking at going forward, the areas where we're seeing issues with maintenance and, staffing issues and everything, just purchasing another property does not seem, to me, the best route here. We had two public safety buildings, one public safety building, and now we're just looking to switch gears to a 3rd one. I don't know. I'm honestly confused because we had these public safety meetings, and we go like a month and a half in between. And then the next one is, this is the new property we may want to purchase. It just seems like we're just grasping at whatever comes up for a good deal, you know?
Actually, I see it more as like the pendulum keeps swinging back and forth for as long as I've been involved, and that's even been a short period of time compared to Mr. Barkham, Charlie, people that have been involved in a really long period of time, and me, of course. And I think that what I've heard back and forth is the last Public Safety Committee where we met here that have the minutes. People were loud and clear that we need to have a combined public safety. That is what's in the best interest of Southampton. So even though I kept going back and forth with all the discussion, it just seemed like I heard loud and clear that we have to figure this out. It's been 20 years, and this is what we should be doing. And this opportunity came up. This is all very preliminary. It just seems like the direction that I heard.
Every pendulum swing is costing money. And, you know, looking at where we are going forward and the issues, spending money, in my opinion, is not the, I know there's a long-term positive to this, but we need to be a little fiscally conservative with it, so, thank you.
Dan Pellegrini, 76 Crooked Ledge Road. Question, is that road going to be put in by the contractor?
Yes.
Okay. So to Mike's point, I think I just put in a road under the new subdivision bylaws, which this will come in. That road there at 1,000 feet, it'll be $800,000, if not more, to put in. So that price for that property will have to be $300,000 to $400,000 all day long. So to echo what Mike's saying, I think it makes perfect sense. I think it's great for the community, but we don't have any money. And if I was looking at my own personal finances, I wouldn't go buy a piece of property speculating that I would build a house on it until I knew what I could afford to build. So my suggestion would be we get the money from the town as a total budget first and understand what we're dealing with and work towards the money constraints instead of a wish list and an ideal situation, and we work towards reality. Because what I think is going to happen, if I had a crystal ball, is we'll go spend the money on this, then we'll drop a plan, we'll bring it to town meeting, and it won't pass. And then we'll own another piece of property, and hopefully things will turn around, and we'll make money off that property when we go to sell it, if we do go to sell it. But I'm just concerned, again, we're buying a foundation without having any idea as to what the budget is and what budget we would pay for in a town. So why can't we come up with a plan that includes a reasonable price for the land, reasonable price for a building, and go get that passed, and then actually have pre-approved mortgage, like if you're to build a house and buy a house, pre-approved and know what you're dealing with. Because I'm with Mike. I listened to the finance thing, and we're hurting financially, and we're going to spend another $30,000, $50,000, $80,000 just to have our name on that property for 2 years. I think it's a tough decision. So my suggestion would be, let's understand what we can get for money, what the town will vote in, because this will be an override, right?
Oh, definitely.
So why are we not bringing that first to understand what we have for a budget? And again, you can't make big financial decisions that have been around here for 20 years in a snap drop of a hat because some developer's looking to pull this together. And this is going to help a developer get a loan by you having it on here. So again, I'm not sure it's in the best interest of the town with our financial situation, in my opinion.
Sure.
Can I just point out that in the application for the Green Communities certification, we pointed out that the fire department building and the police department building are the two oldest municipal buildings in town. Fire department was built originally in 1862, where the police department is. The old town hall was built in 1905, and as part of an energy conservation effort, obviously one modern building is far less expensive to operate over the next 35 or 50 years than two very old buildings requiring significant maintenance, significant investment in the basic systems, and as well as, you know, the wind blows through the windows at the police department like there's a fan on the outside. And so the costs for energy, for maintenance and so forth of these two old buildings has to be factored into any kind of consideration of where you go, how you go forward. And certainly, I think many communities are going from 2 public safety facilities down to 1 simply because it is far more efficient.
It makes a lot of sense, and I just built a new house in town, and the efficiency is unbelievable from the one I built in '93. So I absolutely understand that, but here's the problem we have as a town. We can't pitch those buildings. We own them. So you're responsible for them. So what's in the plan to pay for them? And then second to that, if you ever want to use them for anything, you got to sink the money you're talking about into the buildings. So again, turning a blind eye to that is not the reality. We have to deal with it. So what is our plan to deal with this? Are we just going to mothball them and leave them? That's not the answer. And then second to that, we also got another problem because we just passed another bylaw, and I don't know if we thought about this, on where we can't touch anything that's over 100 years without all regulations towards it. So we're going to have even more expenses as we go hit these buildings to try to adhere to some of the historical guidelines and ramifications on them. So again, Bob, that goes back to my point of let's look at the whole picture. Let's understand what we need for money. Let's get the money before we spend any more money in hopes to get money to pay for this. That's it. But good point, Bob. We do have to do something.
Aaron Kuchar, 49 Coleman Road. For clarification, can you explain what happened to the property that we bought behind the fire station, and now what you're going to do with the $15,000 that we're going to spend for the police if we're not going to use them for the intended, I thought was for a stable, or for a complex at one time?
The property over here
Yeah.
is obviously town-owned.
Yep.
Nothing's changed. But because of town meeting vote not wanting to put the complex over there, that put that land dormant.
That's not what the vote was.
I thought they just didn't want the
Sorry?
complex.
The vote was to fund
Right,
the construction. It wasn't the location. The article was to fund the.
right.
Right, it didn't say where
The
the,
saying they don't want it there isn't necessarily true.
Well, the comments that came to me were that they didn't like that site.
I think it was a $10 million bill that no one liked.
Nobody liked the $10 million.
And so I think
Okay.
that's
Well, the excavation in the back, I mean, there was so much of the land that couldn't be used. So the money that was, the land in the back was purchased because it was someplace that perked. So regardless of what's happening with that property, we now have the possibility of being able to put a septic system in.
And I'm just afraid.
so then the one that we're looking to do through the one over there for
The old Grange was.
right, so what's the
And the purpose of
intention?
that was the same as what the purpose of the other one was, to provide for septic and/or parking for whatever
And
use the
piling
building
snow and all
ends
that.
up being in the future.
But since we're not doing it, would the plan be to still buy that, move forward, so we can have more liability on our shoulders if we don't do anything with it? Or is the plan to put that $15,000 in the
Back into
bank
it, yeah.
and get our name back on here, or send it over to the school and pay for the boiler?
That hasn't been voted yet by the town.
What to do with that yet?
Correct.
Yeah, that's
But are
all.
we gonna still move forward with both?
I believe it's being moved forward, though. It's being moved forward to do the 15.
This fell on us a week ago, just like the boiler did.
Right.
We're trying to be as transparent as possible to let everybody know. You're asking for definitive answers, all that I can't give you because we don't have them. You know?
We should definitely think about pitching the $15,000 ideal way if we're moving down this road again. I mean, there's no sense in getting deeper into the police station, is there?
Well, we still need the pile for the plowing. We still need a better parking lot there. The land relatively is inexpensive, and it looks like it's going to be capable of supporting a septic system for a building with a failed septic system.
So again, we're gonna have to invest in that building, so we've gotta really look at the whole picture.
Virginia Ahart, 27 Fulmer Road, also the chair of Community Preservation Committee. We never, as a committee, assumed that that building would only be used for the police. It's too big a building to be used for completely for the police. The feasibility study needs to be done Actually, the old one needs to be upgraded. And there are many suggestions out there for use. But I want everyone to understand, community preservation cannot put 1 cent into this. We can help underwrite grants, historical grants, and things like that to fix to refurbish, renew the old town hall for other uses that this town has. An enlarged senior center, for example. The possibility of having additional meeting space. People don't have community meeting space in this town. These are all things that could happen there and could have, in fact, perhaps been happening still if the police were there. So please keep in mind that whatever comes out of the feasibility study for that building, that can open up beginning to look for grant money which would not be available. And we cannot use 1 cent of community preservation money for a new complex. So, you know, there are other options for us, that piece over there.
Good evening. Mike Wyatt, the police chief. The Old Town Hall police station now, except for 2 rooms on the 3rd floor, every room is taken by the police department. There is no other room on the bottom floor. Every office is used. 2nd floor, every office is used, which leaves the 3rd floor with 2 offices, and those are the only 2 empty spaces at this time, just for clarification.
How does the chief feel about having a complex at this location?
The location, I think, it's a location that I've always liked. It put us into the center of town. I think that when I say center of town, business district, it would put us in an area where I think it would maybe deter potential crime, as in the convenience stores, the bank, the liquor store, having the police department right there in the center of town, and just having, you know, the access right in the center for us to respond to anywhere in town. And it's just down the road from where we are, but putting us there, we're a little bit more in the light for anybody else, the public in town, to find us, and just think I think it's a great area. We just need the funding. So.
Thank you, Chief. Barbara?
My name is Barbara LaFlamme. I live at 20 Cook Road in Southampton, longtime Southampton resident. Very interested in this particular project. It's been a possibility for quite some time. In terms of transparency, Mr. Konicki says that we're striving for transparency. I have a question. It's my understanding that the Gorton family had come forward, approached the town about offering a very large parcel of land to the town of Southampton. For some reason, we never heard about that. That wasn't very transparent to me. I would like to know how many other people may have come forward to the town of Southampton with suggestions or offers to the town of Southampton that the taxpayers don't know about. Can you inform me about that?
I cannot, and I do not know what you're referring to about the Gorton family.
You had said at a public meet that you had been approached by the Gorton family and you told them that the town didn't have any money.
That's correct.
So my question to you is, have there been any other property owners that have come forward?
Not to my recollection.
Just the Grange property.
The Grange
So
property.
we had
yeah.
sent letters out to a number of places that were identified by the Public Safety Committee as possible sites for a public safety complex. And the only person that I'm aware of that we heard back from was the landowner of the previous Grange, which is what Dan was just, the property he was just referring to.
Okay. I believe that under the procurement regulations for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, when the town is looking, a municipality is looking for a particular type of land, that the procedure is to put out a formal request for proposals. Has that been done?
No,
Can you explain to me why not?
never occurred to me. Or to the town administrator or anyone else.
You're more likely, if the public is well informed and understands what it is that the town is looking for in terms of how many acres, what's the radius from the center of town, are there any benefits to a property owner? For example, they might not have to pay rollback taxes. They might not have to get the property surveyed. There are other benefits that might accrue to a property owner stepping forward. There might be below market values that they can take tax deductions for. I'm grateful that somebody has stepped forward and said, I'm willing to work with the town of Southampton, but I think we need to make sure that the public is better informed than what we have been in the past. That's very distressing to me that a very valuable property was offered to the town and the town didn't have an opportunity to know more about it. That's my position on that.
Thank you, Barbara. Anyone else want to make a comment?
Matt Fletcher, Gun Road. Just curious if the town already passed on 61
No,
at the land.
hasn't been touched.
Okay. Thanks.
I believe that goes to conservation first, and I don't even know if they've seen it. I don't believe that this is 61, there's a agricultural restriction on this that they have to get through, and then the town has the first option to buy. Well, it hasn't even gotten that far in the process.
And that kind of brings up a subject that I think is a little sore that we should look at as a town, where we're kind of leaving ourselves out to hang. So I'll give you an example. Someone will bring this to the planning board, and they'll go get this approved, they'll put in the subdivision, and then they'll come back and ask for the land to be removed out of Chapter 61. Well, that puts the town in a very tough position. Now that there's a road and there's road frontage on that, the land is worth so much more. We should be forcing developers to pull it out of Chapter 61 before they get approved subdivision on these roads. And it happens all over town, and it's not right, because we're getting screwed out of taxes, excuse the language, and then we're not having a reasonable chance to buy the land because we're not getting a raw value of the land. We're then allowing it to be subdivided, and then they pull out each individual lot, and each individual lot is $150,000 in town, opposed to the whole parcel, which you could get for $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000. So it's just something that maybe the select board could talk to the planning board about, and not allow them to be passing subdivisions on properties that are not pulled out of Chapter 61, and allowing the town to get the right to buy the properties before they go out. So these are all little loopholes that are costing us money across the board. And I just put in a subdivision, and I'll let everyone know my land's never been in Chapter. Never will be in chapter. I don't play that game. I pay full taxes on it and move it forward. The land that's in chapter, I'll never develop.
Anyone else? You think we're down to it? Okay. Uh-oh, Don Warren's, here we go. He's taking the hat off.
Where's the camera? Don Warren, 230 College Highway, member of the Public Safety Building Commission, and also I represent the Historic Commission, the Building Commission. I just want to say that that I personally am excited about this possibility presenting itself, and I think it's much too quick to back away from, and that we really should move forward and see where it takes us. We can't control our destiny all the time. These things happen, and we've got to be prepared to keep our minds open to the possibilities and see it through. Maybe it'll turn out to be not a wise thing to do in the final analysis, but it's much, in my mind, it's much too quick to back away from at this point in the game.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, I think we've come full circle with this. So let's move on to old business. Board okay with that? Sure. Net metering credits. Is there anyone here to speak about net metering credits?
Zach Holt said he would be here tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw that email.
I did confer with town council, which is what the board suggested. Town council gives preliminary approval. I guess they'd like to spend a little bit more time on any agreement that the board would want to sign. Actually, Zaneski said to me today that you could sign it, and he doesn't see anything fundamentally to disagree with there, but he might do a little tweaking of some of the language there.
Okay.
I'm not sure why he is not here.
All right.
He did say he would be
Let's table
here.
it for now
Yep.
and see where we go. Has Jason Johnson shown up? Okay. Disposal of surplus property, we all set with that?
All set.
Special town meeting, January 16th. Does the board entertain to move that forward?
There's no problem with that date on the school, is there, January 16th?
Is there no problem with the school having it that day? Is that what you're asking me? I haven't heard anything about it unless you went through Mrs. Carmichael.
Okay.
Did anyone approach her about paperwork for that?
The only reason I'm asking is because I know sometimes, I don't know if it matters, but that's often the week of the holiday.
I think Bob has already talked
Yeah,
to her.
we're okay with that.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, we're all
Sometimes
set.
it just
All right.
goes through her.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we have the special town meeting on January 16th,
And I'll second it.
2018.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
date.
Okay. Oh, and town clerk and town moderator are on board with this, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Moderator's on board. Clerk is on board.
All right, going into new business. Financial disclosure by non-elected municipal official of financial interest. Do you have that, Bob?
I do.
We got copies of that here?
All right, this is basically our highway superintendent, Randall Kemp.
No, of that,
Uh,
Randall.
basically stating that
It's the only copy that I have.
his work, so on and so forth, may imply a conflict because of immediate family member working, representing certain individuals. This is standard, there's nothing unusual to this. Do I hear,
Well, what's the address on that?
don't have it in my hand now.
Okay, it has to do with someone in the family representing
Yeah.
Yeah, but what
real
address?
estate transaction.
Where's the work gonna be done?
Works, looks like 8 Woodmar Lane.
Okay. 8 Woodmar Lane, okay.
Isn't that right off Pleasant?
Yeah.
It's off of Pleasant,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
I suppose I can vote on that. I'm a butter to that property, but that shouldn't really affect anything, right? Just abutting it, okay.
It's just a recognition of the.
Yeah, just-
Right, I just want to make sure that I'm close.
Really though, because they broke up that land, so if it's one of the front lines to lot all and stuff in all the individual parcels.
But the issue
I
isn't,
bet the backside
the
of
issue
some of
isn't
those
about
parcels.
being in a butter, though. The issue is about
Yeah.
the financial relationship.
Right, okay, I just wanted to make sure I'm not gonna get in conflict here, that's all.
Yeah.
But I have no problem with it, because basically all Randall's doing, he does
He's just
curb
igno-
cuts, or he does,
He's just acknowledging it
Driveway.
exists, that's all.
right, I think, I
And
have
we're
no problem.
Someone in
acknowledging
his
that we
family is
understand.
representing the person who's involved in this
Right.
real estate transaction, and he's just disclosing that.
Right.
And so I'll make a motion to approve or to,
Accept it?
Accept it,
Do we,
yep.
we don't, we just accept it, or?
Yeah,
do we
you're just
approve it?
determining that, and it's approved, that's
I will
all.
second that.
All in favor?
aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. I'll give that back to Bob, please. Hampshire Regional Budget Meetings?
Yes, that process is going to get underway shortly. And I think I passed along a message from the superintendent if representatives of the town, other than members of the school committee, have an interest or want to sit in, that they're certainly welcome to.
And when or where are they gonna be? Do they have them posted on their website, I take it?
They do?
Just. if-
Tammy Walunas, 298 College Highway. I'm a member of school committee, but also a member of the finance subcommittee. We have a meeting on Monday, December 4th at 5 o'clock at Hampshire Regional. That's going to go over the preliminary objectives that Kristen's going to give out so that we are ready for the meeting on the 18th December, again, a Monday. That one's at 6:30, and they will be voting on several pieces of the budget. So those are the dates.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, nothing else on that? Budget guidelines for 2019? Is
I
this
think we've
board-
more or less been through that.
Yeah, I mean, and I'd like to get Mr. Martin involved in this also. So let's redo this on the 12th,
Okay.
all right?
Yep.
Maybe there'll be some change of info. Housing Committee. It appears that our Housing Committee has been inactive for over a year, including not getting their mail, not opening, not having meetings, so on and so forth. I think this board needs to send a letter to those members. I know there's one that's newly elected, and he's reached out to the other members and never got a response back from any of the other members. So the individual can't hold a meeting by themselves. But we need to find out if these people actually still want to be on this committee, because if they don't, then they need to send in a letter of resignation so we can get some people on that committee.
Who's the chair of the committee, do you know?
I don't know. I don't think they put a chair in.
Maybe Virginia knows.
Virginia A.R., 27 Fulmer Road. A member of the Housing Authority does sit on the community preservation. It is my understanding that the state is supposed to name one person that is probably the person who's supposed to be chairing it. And they have not done that. That's my understanding.
That's news to me, Virginia. I'm not disputing it, that's just news to me.
Well, VJ, who was on
Yeah,
and moved out of town, was the person who had been named by the state previously.
all right.
I'm pretty sure.
I believe they're all elected.
Well, they are elected except for the one person.
Right.
Yeah.
That one person's usually the chair?
I
don't
don't know for sure.
I still think we should send a letter to all the members.
Well, but you also probably ought to jolt the state to name their person.
Once we establish that that's the case.
Right.
Well,
Are there bylaws that we can review that have to do with this particular committee or anything? I'd like to know what's...
You want to do a little research on it?
Yeah, sure.
Would you?
Yeah.
Please? All right, let's Rainey do a little research and we'll come back on the 12th and see what's going on.
That sounds good.
Is this a municipal housing committee, or is it the board of the housing authority?
There is no housing authority. It's a committee here.
Right, that's what I thought. If you have a housing authority, the governor appoints one member of the board.
Right, but we don't have that here.
Right, okay.
Well, I understand that that's what they're called.
Well, Rainey will do the research.
Okay,
And connect with, and
because
we'll find out.
Who's
I
the
mean-
representative from the Housing Committee to the Preservation Committee?
Jenica Reynolds. And it's called Housing Authority on the list of people I have.
Okay.
Oh, you just went and figured it? Okay, I was going there.
What'd you say, Michael?
The Housing Authority, and Janika Reynolds is the chair, term expires 2019.
Which still comes back to the fact that there's a year's worth of mail sitting there and they're not having
Right.
meetings.
Just send her a nice little letter. Does she need any help?
Yeah.
Or Rainey's doing it?
Into it
you have
first,
to
then
look into
we'll
it
decide what
first.
to do.
Yeah, okay.
Laserfish Document Management Agreement. Mr. Pellegrini, you wanted the podium on this?
Yeah, I was brought up some concern a few months back when I was in here, heard you guys talking about it, and then I volunteered to go over to Springfield and sit in on the session, and it's unique. I mean, at the end of the day, basically, Williamstown got a grant and looking to pool that grant amongst 5 towns, which will buy us our initial equipment to scan it. And then Northampton's appears to be a service provider and leverage their excess capacity on their servers and storage or whatever to store it. So, but that got me thinking, because I do these agreements for a living, and first problem is getting your documents to an electronic format. Second thing that you got to live with forever is paying the fees for them to be hosted. And then there's nothing worse than you relying on your electronic documents and a hoster not being available and the environment not being available. Even worse than that, I've seen scenarios where human error and lax attitudes have cost thousands of dollars in lost data. So I came up with a lot of questions, because at the end of the day,
I saw them.
yeah, and they're basic stuff. I mean, to what it is the cost per gigabyte, what it is per license. If you look at the license fees, they're $2,000 for a named user. What is that? Does that mean that's the only person that can search it? Is that the person that can enter it? There's only 2 licenses for, all 5 communities too, if you look at the fine print on it. And then if you look at on top of the contract Northampton threw in front of us, they're indemnified for anything. They could basically throw our data away after we go through all the expenses of digitizing everything. They could throw it away and we got no recourse to them. And at the end of the day, let's be real, I've seen this happen, where it sounds like a great idea where you have excess bandwidth, then the stuff hits the fan up in the town of Northampton, they got budget cuts, and guess whose servers get shut down? Guess whose data gets thrown aside? Or guess who gets a ridiculous bill that starts paying for everything? And that's the other thing in here. There's absolutely no price protection. One, they don't even tell us what the price is, but then there is no price protection. It just says we're going to negotiate, every year, or we'll give you what your cost is per year. So, albeit it sounds good on the surface, I question the reason why we would spend the time and the money to even move things to a digital format, because at the end of the day, we're not going to get rid of our paper records, right? So we're going to still have to maintain those. You would throw away the paper record?
The clerk has to maintain some, but there's a lot of records that don't need to be maintained forever, like payroll records from the 1940s.
So why not just get rid of them?
Well,
Why digitize them and pay to have them stored somewhere online?
Well, we wouldn't have those digitized. We would have current and future digitized to store for a period of time before disposing of them.
And that's fine, but we'd have to scope it and we'd have to understand, because obviously Northampton is going to charge us a monthly fee, and it's going to be a per gigabyte, per page, per document. We don't know what that is. We obviously would have to have some SLAs too, as far as response times, because there's going to be nothing worse than you actually needing to get that document and not be able to get that document. But I guess it all comes full circle. I'd be more than happy to work with anyone to help negotiate this, and since I'm on the Finance Committee, I mean, maybe that does bode well, but I think we really need to take a gut check in light of what Bob said earlier about our financial condition, and understand that we're probably looking at a $4,000 to $5,000 to maybe $10,000 a year bill for this. I mean, right now it's $2,100 a year is what they're projecting, with no discussion of the storage, no discussion of the monthly fee. That's just your license cost. So I think that's what we got to look at as a whole. Are we ready to swallow up $5,000 to $10,000 a year to have this going forward? And if we are, we'd be more than happy to button you guys down and negotiate our town a great contract with them. But I think that would be the order, is to truly understand what we feel we want to spend for this. And Joshua, if you've got any answers to these questions on the hosting and the pricing and what includes, I'd love to hear it. But right now, what you got in front of us is nothing but a hook to get us in and get us going with no beef behind it.
So I just want to clarify that I think this contract was looked into, and then it was very helpful to get your email, because you helped me to understand a lot of the questions. And so there were questions that were raised about the terms of the agreement, the fees and the charges, the training and setup, the technical and process-related issues. So there were a lot of questions that really helped me to answer. And then Josh went through every single question and answered. So even some of the things you're raising right now have been addressed and shared with us, as, you know, in terms of cost, only annually, not monthly. So I don't know. I mean, I just wanted to.
Can you go right to the cost right there? And what's the hosting cost? What are the costs?
Maybe we'll just ask him to speak to that, unless you want me to read it.
However you want to do it.
Well, let's let Josh come up for a minute.
$3,100 annually? Unlimited storage.
Guys, you got to get to that podium. Trust me, I get more criticism of not being heard than any other criticism I get here.
Good to see you again. Question was on cost, $3,100 annually.
It says,
Right.
2,100 is what was originally put here.
2,100.
That's
21.
unlimited storage.
500 gig.
Come on up to the,
Should I? Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm Joshua Garcia from the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and I've been coordinating the process to try to get the document management system between 5 communities in partnership with Northampton to get the system implemented. And Antonio can introduce himself.
Yep. Antonio Pagam, I'm the CIO for the City of Northampton. And I saw your questions. Actually, all that information has been discussed in several meetings that we have had for the last 3 or 4 months. So to answer the question, we are basically not charging the town by document. So basically we discussed during the conversations that the need is going to be no more than 500 gigabit, and that is what we are doing max. So in reality, the city doesn't use 500 gig on our own data. So I don't think any town will be using that much. If that happens, I think that we should.
What was the amount of the gigabytes again?
500 gig.
500 gig.
Is half a terabyte of data. And the agreement was that we were basically, when we started this conversation, there was no fees discussed. We just talked about, okay, what makes sense for the town. The city is not a service provider. We are not in the business of providing services. This actually came as an approach from the state on getting a regional solution for document management. And as part of the compact, community compact initiative, it was discussed to have something that one entity in the region had already some capacity that could be used by small towns. And it was actually part of a grant. So the city basically is interested on, yes, using our capacity, and at the same time work collaboratively with other towns. We do actually have a contract with Williamsburg for the last 9 years, providing a similar service for building permits, where we host the data, we provide actually the building permit inspector also, and it's been working for about 9 years on our servers, and they have never have any issues with data. Obviously there's downtime, anything, but we've been able to recover the data. We are, the IT department has definitely, the function is to maintain this data for all the departments in the city. So the same way we maintain it for our department, we'll maintain it for every town. In relationship with, and I answered the question about response time. Yeah, we don't have an SLA, but we can, yes, definitely we can include in the contract response time, retention time, and recovery time. That's something normal for us internally, so we can publish that as part of the contract. That might be an oversight when we discuss the contract. Never came out in the discussion, so it was not included.
Do you mind if I ask a couple questions?
Oh, go ahead.
After we hit the 500 gigabyte, because I understand that.
You need to get to that podium now. I'm sorry.
After we hit the 500 gigabytes, would you be willing to give us set pricing on that and predictability? Because, albeit we all think 500 gigabytes sounds like a lot of data, a lot of storage, the smart cards produce 2 terabytes an hour, basically, of data to drive. So the amount of data that's starting to come out is ridiculous. And I would like to understand what one document eats up from a meg standpoint, gig standpoint, so we could actually apply some science to this, because it is not a wet your finger and guess. And this is what happens all the time with companies when they digitize their stuff. They think it's going to be 1, and then it's 10 times that, and then the fees start mounting up, and then you're into it too big. So again, if we can control our spend and understand exactly what we're putting in there and not let it balloon up, it could be a good thing. But again, we have to do that. And then the other thing, sir, I'd like to understand is the licensing. I saw 2 licenses in there, or a license for like roughly $2,100. Is that just the person that could input it, or is that actually for the users to pull the information out? I'm just trying to understand how easy it is to get that information out.
Sure. The licensing to start for that, basically we discuss again, the capacity of the towns is very limited, so we don't think that more than 2 people will be signing into the system with name users. Unlimited users can search the data and retrieve data out of it, but in order to input data into the system, you have to have a name user. So we calculated 2, and some towns might be, maybe Southampton will be using the 2. Some of the towns might be using only 1 user because of their capacity. In the documentation that we shared before, I don't have the numbers right now here, we talk about it, how much is per user the first year, and then there is a, no, there is a, yeah, there is a $2,000, that's the first year. Yeah. And then there is, I think it's $300 per user per year after that.
Right. So let me, Charlie. Only because we're not going to spend the entire night discussing this. Yeah. My thought was this, and I don't know how the board and how you guys feel about it, but how about if you 3 get back together, work this out, and then give us a presentation as to what you think is workable for everybody? How do you feel about that?
I want to hear what Bob wants to say.
Just that in the discussions that we've had, I think there were 3 meetings. I've only attended 2.
Yes.
In terms of licensing and users, we think we only will really need 1. The model that we would employ would be, we would have the scanner system, this large scanner input system, on a cart. We would roll it from department to department. And a department would know ahead of time that on Wednesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, they've got access to the system, take it into their office, roll it into their offices, and they could scan current documents and maybe have it for an hour or an hour and a half, and then take any extra time that they have to begin the process of scanning in older documents, so that over a period of 6 months to a year, a municipal department could not only keep current with the existing documents scanned into the system, but also make a lot of progress, if not complete progress, in taking older documents and getting those into the system. Obviously, the clerk department would probably have priority over any other department here because they have a lot of important records that are accessed by the public on a regular basis. And what it would mean would be for the clerk, all these records that they currently have would simply be able to go, so if you want a birth certificate, sit down at the machine, bring up your birth certificate, print it and give it to you. Or any other record or document that you need. Once we're scanned into the system, then each department head would have, you know, an icon on the desktop where they could access the system and bring up records that were necessary.
So again, I think this is the start of our problems. I just heard carte blanche on scanning. Two things concern me in what I heard there. Carte blanche on scanning, which gives us no control of what we're going to pay, and at some point the generosity is going to override once he gets a huge bill from whoever your storage provider is, either evil money. It'd be nice. There are certain companies out there, but you'll get a big storage bill at some point. So again, we've got to understand what is our appetite to spend on this, and then we got to lock it down and understand what the documents are and beyond it. The other concern I have in that is you just said birth certificates. So if we have no idea of what security goes on up in Northampton, I'm sure it's good, but we would have to understand these are things we have to understand by as a town, or we will get sued immensely.
Yeah, the security issues are addressed, in fact.
Okay.
And we came away thinking that, you know, certainly that's not something we need to be particularly concerned about. The other thing is, if you walk around the building, one of the motivations here is that our office spaces are being narrowed every year with the addition of another filing cabinet.
But to your point, Bob, you just said you could throw all the stuff away, so let's throw it away. I'm concerned, because what I'm hearing here...
I don't think we're throwing things away. We would put them...
But your storage is growing.
Someplace
You're now
else.
taking it out of here, where we're already paying for the heat around here and the storage of it, and bringing it over to Northampton and digitizing it, and we're now a slave to that digital world. And we've got to be realistic with the costs that are associated with it. And scan a doc and take a picture with your cell phone. And look at how that is. And I don't know how the micro system works, but I'm sure it's taking a PDF of this stuff. Is it making and the PDFs are huge. Yeah. Huge. You start taking some subdivision drawings, you start taking plans, we could be looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars of bills. Go look at how big Amazon Web Services is right now. It's one of the largest companies in the world because it's Hotel California. You can check in, but you can't check out. And that is what I'm cautioning us on here. Is we put our data in, we'll never be able to get it out, we'll be adhering to that fee forever.
So are you recommending we don't follow through with this?
I am recommending that we look at a budget of what we're willing to spend, if that is $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 a year, and then quantify that to how much data we can put in here and how many licenses we can do, we can control this. If we open it up to a free-for-all, we're going to unleash a beast that we're going to pay for the rest of our lives. And that's what I'm cautioning us on. And at some point, you have to pay the piper on storage. I mean, I was a storage rep for Hewlett-Packard for a number of years. I know this.
Can I address the podium for a second? Sure. All right, Gregory Bennett, 307 College Highway. As many of you know, I work in the IT industry. We've recently undergone a 10-year effort to digitize the records of the company I work in. Most of the cost that we had to address was on document preparation, indexing in our systems. I'm not sure how everything's organized well here at the town hall, but you probably may have years of indexing and planning to go through before you decide what to put in. In the end, we ended up disposing of 80% of our records that we originally intended to put in. So you really need to give a lot of thought ahead of time to what records you want to put in there. Otherwise, as Dan said, it's going to be a growing beast. And once you're locked into electronic storage, you're there forever to maintain the records. We thought we'd have to maintain our records electronically for 2 years when we initially underwent our effort. Because of regulatory changes, we now have to hang on to them for 35 years. So that's mounting storage costs we never expected to undergo at the time. Thanks.
I love these but I'm here trying to represent the town and say, guys, we got to think about it. It's a good idea, but we got to understand how much we want to spend. This would be my recommendation.
Just one more comment, Charlie. You know, I understand what the concerns, and they're legitimate concerns. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts gave a grant to 5 communities in this region in order to pursue document management. We are not inventing the wheel here. This is being done routinely by municipalities in other parts of the state, and particularly the eastern part of the state, and the larger cities, obviously, that have a lot of resources. This is being done because there's always a downside. But even given the downside, it makes a lot more sense to have a document management system than to continue the exploding paperwork that we all have to deal with, along with the difficulties in categorizing the paperwork, filing it properly, and continuing to buy more and more files so we can keep more and more paper. It is just, it's really part of the past. And I think the Commonwealth is giving grants to smaller communities that have fewer resources because there's a realization at the state level that this is the future, and that the communities that are cooperating with this grant realize that this is something we more or less have to do because we cannot continue to address the whole problem of the exploding paperwork around us.
I have a quick question. Now, is that $2,100 a year subsidized by the grant? So if the grant dries up, does that fee escalate? Or is that just straight up $2,100 a year without the grant?
The grant will fund the scanning system and the startup costs and so forth. After that, it's $2,100 per year that we would pay.
What does that include?
The ongoing fee.
What does that include, the $2,100? Because a license is $2,000. So if we're getting one license, we're there. So that means these guys are getting $100.
Okay, let me explain that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to repeat this. The license is $2,000 the first time, first year, and not ever.
And it's $300 renewal.
And then $300 every year for the user. The $2,100 includes the hosting for the 500 gig, plus the 2 licenses and the support for, let's say something happened with the data we need to recover, that is included there. We explain, I don't want to repeat what we already explained, but we basically, we have a backup plan that is actually on 3 different stages, and is definitely as strong as I can be. So it's secure. There is no hidden fees because that's not our business. We don't do business on that way. That's not what we do. There's no hidden fees. We don't store anything in Amazon. We don't store anything outside of our buildings. We might, in the future, as a disaster recovery solution, because of the environment we are living today, we might have a tier of backup that goes outside of the buildings, but at this point we don't do it. And that's part of our own cost. It's not something that will be added up to any services, because it's not central to this kind of service.
And if I can add to that, the 2,100, that part of the discussion too, and it's included in the contract there, that if there is an increase at all whatsoever, the towns will be immediately notified no later than December of every year. And you can make your determination as to whether or not you want to continue or if you don't want to continue. If there's a separation at all between the municipalities, the partnership agreement between the 2 municipalities, it gets back, what did you call it?
It's returned to the town.
You put it in an external, it gets all downloaded into an external hard drive, data goes back to you, and you can decide how you want to move forward with it. But you'll have ownership and control of your data.
Yeah, ultimately, if the relationship with Northampton is unsatisfactory in 5 or 10 years, the town would have the option of buying our own server, bringing the data back that we
Or
own.
next year.
and setting up our own system, which many towns have done, except that the recognition of this grant is that there's limited resources to do that in smaller communities.
I remember when we were looking at the budget last time, the budget line for postage and copying is ridiculous. Is there any opportunity to move forward and save money because of this in either of those lines?
You're always going to print it.
Well, I think
You're always
postage-
going to print a copy, right?
postage,
Realistically, you're not going to reduce some of those.
If we want to.
Especially if they don't register the dogs.
I mean, are any towns going to emailing tax bills and emailing all the things that have to get out
Yes,
to?
that's coming down the pipe.
But that really wouldn't impact it.
I know. I just didn't know if this would have any impact on copying mostly.
No problem. I have a question, it's kind of a layman's question, and it's probably more towards Dan and the representatives. So 500 gigabytes is half a terabyte. And on Cyber Monday, I bought 10 of those. So I bought a 5 terabyte hard drive for less than $150. So my question is, have we looked internally about hosting the information here? Because if I can buy 10 times that amount for less than 200, and you purchase a good size scanner and it's in some sort of secured server situation, is it something we could do here that doesn't cost you 2,000 times 10 times 20, you know?
Yes, I have had experience.
And it could be.
I've had some experience with that. It's 5 years old, but roughly the costs in round numbers were about $15,000 to $20,000 to do it as one municipality. You got to pay for your scanner. You got to pay for your software. Typically, you got a software license, so it doesn't go away after one year. You don't buy it; you rent it, and you have to, you'd have to pay for the storage.
Okay.
System.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know what it would cost this time. When I looked at it, again, it's about 5 years ago. It was in the range of.
But again, that's an acquisition cost, and that's your cheapest point of technology, is your acquisition cost. Your most expensive is maintaining it. So the problem we're going to have is someone coming in and maintaining it. My understanding is we can't even maintain what we have, never mind throwing in more servers and storage on top of it. Then additionally, every storage manufacturer is going to hit you with a maintenance bill. All right, and that's 15 to 20% a year that you're going to have ongoing for what's on the floor. No doubt about it. And then you're going to start throwing more stuff at it, and it's going to spiral out of control. There's a reason why Amazon is growing. So I would go to Mike and I'd say, no, we don't want to do it ourselves. What you're buying is a home grade hard drive. What we have here are industrial grade, which are completely different. And to give you an example, Hewlett Packard's largest drive is 16 terabytes on a little like this. So space is not an issue, but it's expensive. I mean, that's 16 terabytes, it's a $50,000 drive. But it's protected, 7/9. So again, my recommendation would be, let's come up with a budget that we want to spend. And if it's at $2,100, let's figure out how many documents that is, and let's prioritize our documents to the point here, and let's go at it. Because $2,100 a year to prioritize and electronicize our best documents and make it easier, not bad. My concern is that $2,100 is what it is this year, and then next thing you know, we're up upstairs in the finance committee trying to come up with $15,000 to pay the bill.
Tamara Lunas, 298 College Highway. We currently now have a contract with Northeast IT, correct?
No.
We don't. I thought.
We use their services from time to time and pay them for those services.
Okay.
We have no contract with them.
Because this
It
is something
that's
that
under
they do also.
consideration. It is under consideration.
Yeah.
And what was under consideration, and I guess will be, in the first of the year, will be changing out our contract with Bluehost for our internet, our email services to Northeast IT.
Okay. I just know that they offer something very, very similar to all of this. And if we already had a contract with them, I would question.
No, we do not.
Okay.
And incidentally, contracting with them will cost us more than the contract we have with Bluehost. the reason for the switch is that Bluehost is simply not providing the service that we require. My computer was down all morning. It was down last week. The system that they provide simply doesn't work for us. And although it's going to cost more with Northeast, maybe the next town administrator may find another company in the region that can do the job more competitively. What we know for certain is that the Bluehost system isn't working for us.
So Bob, have you looked at Google Gmail?
Who? Google?
Yeah.
Well, you could.
Or Microsoft 365?
Yes, I know.
Because most companies,
Yes.
I'll give you an example. Hewlett Packard, with our 200,000 employees, we're on Microsoft 365. It's the fastest growing
That's the agenda
platform.
with Northeast IT.
That's what they're going to do?
They would switch our
And those are the agents.
desktops
They're the
here
agent doing it.
to Office 365.
That's perfect. That's right.
Okay, just fair warning, everybody. We've been at this for over a half an hour. And we have other topics that we have to address tonight also. So I need to see some kind of a wrap-up here.
So just to give you a sense of a timeline, currently 4 of the 5 municipalities have signed. The one left that we're waiting on is Southampton. And Williamsburg is looking to move forward with purchasing the capital in December. So doing some sort of procurement or whatever she needs to do to buy the equipment for the system. She just needs to know which of the municipalities, prior to moving forward with purchasing anything she wants. She's looking to see which communities are committed to moving forward, so, which is per signature of the contract.
So the question is, Dan, you're recommending we don't sign the contract?
Not the way it says, no way would I sign that, just because of the liabilities, no talking SLAs, no protection on future growth of storage, because I can already tell you just.
Okay, we don't, I got you, that was just, so are you guys comfortable with working with Dan over the next week to tweak this a little bit so it's more palatable on both sides of this?
Yeah, I think within the next week gives us some time, just before, I mean, at least the first week into December
Well, our
shouldn't be
next
a
meeting
problem.
is the 12th.
Okay.
So what I was thinking of doing was tabling this to the 12th and then making a decision.
But I think we're going to have to back up and before they can make a recommendation, they're going to have to know what files, somebody's going to have to make a decision, what files we're going to
And that is not going to happen. in a week.
digitize.
That's not going to happen
Right.
in a week and a half.
Right. So how are we going to know where we're going to be in the gigabytes or terabytes if we don't know what we're going to?
Only thing you could do, Jim, is say, we're gonna limit it to 500, not as a committee go past that, and then you're just gonna be shocked at how little you get in there for the.
Right, so you do the first 3 months, and we're at the 500, and then we're
You won't get
done.
3 months, I guarantee you. Probably.
Yeah, so then what?
PDF documents, they're huge.
Right, that's,
Well-
do they make them less dense? Is there a compression? Is there?
Okay, I would suggest that the gentleman here read the answers, because I think that he will be satisfied with the answers, and it might be an hour discussion will fix everything, because everything that he asked is already being answered, including the space.
And I believe so. but-
Yeah, so,
But because of the fact that we're at a committee meeting, not a debate meeting, I'd rather have you guys sit down and hash it out, bring it back to us, and go from there. So I'm
That-
looking at tabling this till the 12th.
yes, I agree,
And
100%.
that way, we're all on the same page. Realistically, I want to go home tonight, too.
Yes, yes. And that's exactly what I wanted to say, that by the 12th, I'm pretty sure I will have an answer
Yeah.
to every question, including whether it's going to be feasible to use 500 gig or not.
But certainly you can start by having you read the questions that they already posed.
Yeah.
Do I hear?
We got those in this afternoon, so we'll give them to you.
Do I hear a motion to table till the 12th?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None. Thank you all. It was
Thank you.
very
Guys,
enlightening for me.
Oh, it's my day.
There it was. Yeah, well, you know.
That's convincing you guys to spend your money instead of.
I know, you're on the flip side of this one. All right. Any other business that cannot wait until the 12th? I'm going to bring back one more time the Jason Johnson appointment to the Cultural Council. I need the board's decision. I can't wait. I mean, we're going to be moving into,
I think we put it on the agenda for next time, and we have some paperwork, or we have him here to speak to his request to be on the cultural council.
I agree.
discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. It's tabled till the 12th. There are no signatures for PCFs. There are no licenses. Warrants that have been signed. W 18-21, November 23rd, 2017, $96,358.68. PD 18-22 for November 30th, 2017, $48,806.26. P 18-22 for November 30th, 2017, $286,638.85. Minutes to be approved, November 2nd, 2017, regular selectmen's meeting. Has all board member read and comfortable?
I have not read them. I'm sorry.
I signed what?
Those are the minutes to be signed.
Yeah, but we haven't voted yet.
But we haven't voted, and I'm comfortable with them.
I read them, I'm comfortable with them.
And you?
You also never approved the minutes at the last meeting from the meeting before, and they're not listed on.
They're included.
They're included here.
Oh, they are?
I have,
That's a different date, right?
I have here October 17th.
Right.
Okay?
Maybe we should look
And they've
at
been
this.
approved. They need to be approved.
You want to give me a few minutes? I'll just...
Boy, am I getting tongue-tied here. Sheesh. All right, we have minutes for October 17th. And we got an executive session minutes that we cannot approve in open session. We got October 17th.
I'm looking at November 2nd.
The only one we have in our packet is November 2nd.
Well, I know, but
They didn't put
he-
the other packet in.
all right,
Those were at the last meeting, I understand.
right. So, and I think we reviewed them, didn't we?
Those are fine. These are not. I did not review these right
But
here.
these hadn't gotten a signature.
I believe you adopted those, but you didn't, they weren't signed.
October
understand.
17th, you did not approve them because I had to correct a couple of things on there that were incorrect, so we just passed those down.
Correct. So that, I mean, I don't have a problem with October, but I did not read November, so.
So let's do October 1st just to get it off the table here,
That's fine.
okay?
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from October, is it 16 or 17?
17.
17, that we reviewed last meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So approved. Mr. Labrie as clerk.
I'll sign those.
Are you clerk?
Yes.
I don't
Fire me.
remember anymore.
Fire me.
I gave you a pink slip there. Take a look. All right, now let's take care of November 2nd.
All right, give him a few minutes to read it, I already read them.
November 2nd, I can, if you want to,
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just not all the way through it, that's all.
Yeah.
So
I'm
today
going to
is
call a
the
recess
28th, right?
before we go into executive
28th.
session. That's all right. Sorry for bringing the coffee.
Okay, those are done. And just, I did that one, I did that one.
By the way, Dan, thank you. No, that was,
It's my money, believe me, and do all this stuff for the right reason.
it is my money too, you know.
And I have no doubt we have good IT systems over there with the questions we've got to ask and
Oh, yeah.
we got to look at.
I have no problem with you asking questions and pointing out things and all that.
No, but I mean, I guess the argument is that they are using SSD or solid state memory, or, excuse me, storage, strongest compression, which is, can be as much as 4 to 1, which is big, but we have to really do some facts on what the compaction compression looks like, if that's what they're using for this. If they're using spinning disk, we're getting nothing. Agreed, huh?
Oh, man.
That's funny. One company I deal with has 200 petabytes.
That's a lot. We just moved to a triple co-location system, so now we have 3 times the cost that we did when it was just backing up.
Yes. That'd be great.
Well, oh yeah, we've been in SSD for a while. We're in Easthampton for everything now. So. I work for Health New England. We're affiliated with Bay State Health Systems.
We're good. I will make a motion that we accept November 2nd, 2017 minutes.
I will second it.
I love having
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Want to sign that, Jim, and pass it on down?
Is this the original here?
I believe. It's the only one I was given.
We're doing a lot of open stack stuff. Where?
Okay, calendar of events. Selectmen's meeting is December 12th, 19th, and town meeting is January 16th. I'm going to move into open time for the public. Do I need to read the paragraph about behavior and conduct? So it felt like
Not for me.
Okay.
Michael Rosenberg, 144 East Street, Chair of the Finance Committee. I'm here to follow up on a request I've made. I've made the request to, I guess you could say, John Reeney's been copied, and to Bob in regarding the proposed TIF agreement and the council opinion on that, receiving a copy of the actual opinion. The Finance Committee generated a lot of the questions and related to that. We did a lot of back and forth with you, with Bob. You know, I feel like we put a lot into generating the inquiry, and we'd like to see the final answer from town council, you know, as part of closing the loop on the whole process. I know more than likely both of you can't vote on it, but it was a question I've asked to John and to Bob, and we have talked about it, just the request itself, and I'm just, I guess, publicly requesting it now because I think I've asked 4 or 5 times.
It was pointed out to me that I might be in conflict of interest relative to this whole topic.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, if I was to give you a confidential document, it would be almost like double jeopardy for me.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I can't give you any comment on this.
Okay, can you at least push the town administrator and the select board's members that are able to weigh on it to weigh in on a decision, at least as chair? Because
I have asked John Martin to talk to the town administrator about this
mm-hmm.
in your behalf. That's as far as I can go with it. I can't, you know.
Okay.
You know.
I mean, it's 5 requests for a simple opinion, and the majority of the requests are unanswered. I hear I'm going to talk to him, I'm not going to talk to him. And
if she wants to talk about this, I really am to the point where I really don't want to discuss this any
mm-hmm. further
because it was pointed out to me that I may be in a conflict.
Okay. I mean, I've asked, I can ask Maureen, is that something that's been discussed with John and the town administrator at all, the request for the information from the town council on that?
What I'm not sure of is whether or not the relationship between the select board and the attorney is of a confidential privilege
Mm-hmm.
relationship.
I'm sure it is, but we have been forwarded opinions prior.
Yeah.
On related, you know, different matters, but matters that may have a similar confidential nature. I mean, I'll just come back next week and ask it again. I'll come back the following week if that's the roundabout we're going.
Yeah, next week we're not meeting, but the week after, yeah.
That's fine.
And you know me, every time you've asked for stuff, I've tried to give it to you, but you got to understand, I'm sort of in this
Mm-hmm.
catch-22 right now.
Mm-hmm. All right. I will put out another formal request tonight, and maybe I'll get a response by our next meeting. I mean, it's about closing the loop on the initial question. I mean, we generated the questions. We generated the rebuttals, you know, to some of the paths that the select board may have been looking into going. And it'd be nice to see the full legal opinion on it so that we can educate ourselves on the process and what happened. So I will try again next time. Thank you.
And this is public time, right?
Yeah, this is public time.
Dan Pellegrini, 76 Crooked Ledge Road. I'm going to come back to the road, Crooked Ledge Road. I've been off it for a while, but I'd like to resurface that completely, figuratively, and yeah. Issues I have is last time we talked, you said it was something about the road needing to be surveyed, Bob was going to go off and do something to look about the survey of the road, and it's because Randall's saying he can't pave it or do anything with it because he doesn't know where the boundaries are, and I kind of called BS on that because they've already paved the farther half of Crooked Ledge Road. We pave roads all through town that we don't survey. So it's really getting to the point where we haven't even cut the sides of the road all year, and last year it was done once. So if I just look at it, the simple charter of a highway department is to maintain our roads, cut the sides of it, clean the streets, remove the snow. They have not swept the streets. As a matter of fact, the street cleaner made it up Crooked Ledge Road, broke down in front of my street, spilled oil all over it, got dragged down the road, and never came back. So the street hasn't been cleaned all year. Potholes haven't been filled. I actually filled all the ones in front of the subdivision I'm putting in, and it is part of my responsibility that I agreed to with the planning board, so I'm fine with that. But there's literally rocks that are coming out of the road where they paved to the rocks instead of removing the rock. And I don't know if it's getting to a personal thing where it's just complete hands off. I saw the mower coming up about a month ago up Crooked Ledge Road. Passed, didn't cut anything on Crooked Ledge Road, the one with the arm, went to Foamer and cut all the way into Foamer, all the way out by the old meeting house on the dirt roads. If you go down those dirt roads and you look at it, they're all perfect. You look at Crooked Ledge Road, and it hasn't been cut in 2 years. So it really goes back to, you know, I'm trying to develop that area to bring revenues into the town, whether people like it or not, and I can give you a prime example. The property, the house that I have for sale up there, the property tax is going to be somewhere in the $7,000 a year range. The land that it was sitting on, I was paying maybe $800 a year in property tax. That's a huge growth. And all I'm asking for is the road to be maintained. I'm not even asking for it to be fixed. I'm not even asking for it to be modernized. I'm just asking for it to be cut, swept, and the potholes filled in. And I've been up here for 2 years, and I see how much money we have in Chapter 90, and we're not spending on Crooked Ledge Road. So I'd ask, can we get it on the list? Can we talk to Randall?
I can tell you that my understanding is the next priority is Glendale, and that's happening.
Understand.
And that money is available. The next priority is that bridge on East Street, and then East Street from the bridge to Route 10. After that, I don't know of any real priorities. I mean, obviously East Street to County Road, but I don't see any new monies coming in for next year because of the East Street project. After that, though, I think it's going to start freeing up some monies. Your point is taken.
That's nirvana to build it, Charlie, and I'd love for it to, some of those things to be cut out, the crookedness of it, and I think we could do it easily. But I'm just asking for the basics of what I'm paying my taxes for. It maintained. I actually, you know, I probably shouldn't tell you guys this,
I will
but
be meeting with Mr. Hampton tomorrow afternoon.
I had an open house on Sunday. Someone came by, looked at the house, said, I love it, love the construction, love the neighborhood, can't deal with the road. I'm looking in another town. Would you build a house for me in another town? And I said, no, I'm not building a house for you in another town. This is it right here. So, I mean, I'm now starting to get people that are coming up Crooked Ledge Road and their teeth are rattling out of their brain because the potholes are there. And it's costing us, as a town, opportunities for growth and new citizens. So,
I will tell you this, there are rocks coming up my road in the middle of the street that I have no clue why the prior highway department never took the rocks out when they paved the road, but they are surfacing.
Understand, and I put in my first road this year. It's not that hard. It's not rocket science. You pull it out, you put gravel, you put pavement.
If there's no base, there's nothing there to start with. Yeah. Your point's taken. I will bring it to his attention tomorrow, because I have to meet with him tomorrow anyways. And I don't know what'll come of it.
Yeah, the roads are narrow, and I think that's the key. If we don't keep cutting the branches out, it's just going to compound the issues. So,
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for open time? Tammy, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you like the podium?
No.
Okay. Seeing that there is no one else for public time, I am going to call for executive session, and then we're going to go for a 5-minute break, and we plan to come back in open time. But I don't know how long that's going to be. My guess is going to be 45 minutes. Yeah, okay.
After, is that
That is the hope.
Well, Tammy, we cannot vote on a contract in executive session.
We have to go in open time to do that. So if we come to a conclusion, we'll have to come back to open time to do that.
All right. Okay.
So with that, under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Items 3, to discuss strategies with respect to collective bargaining or litigation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on a bargaining litigation position of a public body, and the chair so declares, pertaining to Charter Communication Building. We're going to executive session. Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 21, Item 2, to conduct bargaining strategies, sessions to preparation for negotiation with a non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contractual negotiations with a non-union personnel, town administrator's contract, and Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Item 2, to conduct strategy session to prepare for negotiation with a non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions, or to conduct negotiation with non-union personnel, basically negotiation with the town administrator candidate. I move that we go into executive session. I need a roll call vote.
Labrie, aye.
Roden, aye.
And Konecki, aye. It's unanimous. We're closing the meeting. We will come back in open time after this, and I'm declaring a 5-minute recess. Okay, Board of Selectmen's meeting, November 28th. It is now 10:25. We've come out of executive session. We're now in open session. Our discussion is the agreement between our new town administrator and the town of Southampton. We have come to an agreement on the contract, and we are now awarding the contract to Edward Gibson. Mr. Gibson, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome.
It's a pleasure. I look forward to working with you.
We will need your signature, sir, and our signature. You'll get a copy, and we'll keep a copy.
I don't know how you guys do it.
Go ahead, have no faith in us.
I have a lot of faith.
No, it's Bob, not us.
It's Bob, yeah, you got that right. It's not us, it's Bob. Gonna need that copy.
So we're gonna vote on this first? We didn't actually vote on this yet.
Yes, we're gonna vote once the signatures are done.
Okay, we're gonna sign it, then vote.
See what they gave me?
He wants to make sure my signature's on it first.
Got that right. Gene, Jim. Isn't that pretty? Don't give it to him. No. He knows. They
Well,
mail
I
it
didn't
to
know
him. They don't even mail it to me.
Okay. All right, we're ready to vote?
All right, anybody want to make the motion?
I'll make a motion to offer the contract as modified with this latest revision.
Yep, for Edward Gibson, and I'll second
Edward
it.
Gibson, Town Administrator.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Mr. Gibson, you start January 8th, 2018.
I will be here with Elsa.
Very good.
Wonderful.
And the plan is to have you work in concurrently with Bob for that week till town meeting, so that you can get up to speed, and we go from there.
Sounds great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
No moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous? So moved.
Am I using, I should